We're not medicated. I said vindicated.
About what?
Hassan Piker drama.
Hassan Piker drama? Don't you know that I am the world's foremost Hassan Piker drama expert?
It's the global entry thing. The whole like he was stopped at the border thing. I was right on the money from the very beginning, and it's nice to be vindicated. It's nice to be the king.
Honestly, man, I never doubted you. I
Yeah.
never doubt you.
I know. That's why we have such a good dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are
Put
you
my
guys?
faith in you.
I'm doing all right.
Put my trust in you. Sorry,
It's a
got
Linkin
away.
Park. It's a Linkin Park reference. By the way, Hutch, the beard
Yo.
looks great.
It looks great, Hutch.
Yeah, I like how thick it is. It looks really
Wow.
good.
Thank
Yeah,
Looks awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
What's up, boys?
No, I trimmed
How's
my
everybody
beard,
doing?
but I don't get any compliments.
Yeah, but because
okay,
it goes without
whatever.
saying, you know, you're just a stud. You're just our Texan stud.
Kind of boy, you were saying how you were doing.
Oh, I'm doing all right. You know, I'm not up to date with the latest Hassan goings on. So, you know, I heard there was a bit of a viral clip that involved our boy here, Hutch.
Oh no! Oh no!
Naya
Oh
informed
no!
me.
To be fair, that clip is incredible.
That was I had no context for it,
Amazing.
but I was scrolling and I'm like, I saw a majority report tweeted it and it said Hutch, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
okay,
no.
two of my favorite people. I watched the clip and I burst out laughing. It was pretty
It was
fucking funny.
amazing. Yeah.
Wait, are you beefing with Majority Report now, Hutch?
I haven't been
No.
checking Twitter, so I have no idea. I
I
assume
think
I assume that clip was gonna go crazy because it was just such incredible timing.
Yeah, I
You
think
know
it
what
had
though?
less to
You
do with
owned it.
Hutch.
That's the thing. Like you owned it. You laughed. You were like, "Well, fuck me." You know, okay, it happened. And he'd been saying it. You said for like 2 hours or something or another. I don't know the full.
Yeah, I
but
mean
it made me
I feel
laugh.
like I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to take a different posture these days. I don't know about you guys, but when I watched the Trump rally yesterday with the service people behind him, and I mean, I've never seen anything like that ever
Yeah.
in this country, and it fucking sobered me up real quick. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to find a good balance of critiquing what I would view to be as like the excesses of the left, but also keeping the focus where it should be. And so I don't know. I'm gonna try to be more intentional about like how much time I spend talking about stuff.
I'm glad you said that because and I don't know who all has seen or heard about Trump's Fort Bragg speech yesterday. You guys have all of
I
you?
think we all have. Yeah.
Boy? Okay.
Yeah.
My take on it is that is the most dangerous speech that Trump has given since January 6th, simply because of the erosion of not just norms, but like the more I'm reading on it, there are fucking on the books regulations. Like it's a matter of military regulation that they openly and brazenly defied in so many ways. And it's fucking terrifying, especially when you pair it with what Trump has already done by deploying 700 active duty U.S. Marines to Los Angeles, you know, really skirting that Posse Comitatus Act, you know, and then
Violating it, I would say.
you would say, well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And then the fucking birthday parade this weekend. I think you put those three events together, the deployment of the Marines, the speech at Fort Bragg, plus the reaction from uniformed soldiers, and then the military parade. This, to me, is the most chilling little cluster of events since January 6th. And we're 6 months in to his presidency.
Oh, it's chilling. Very chilling. I think that in general, the week's events give you a taste of what this guy's about, and it's that he's willing to shatter every norm, even the politicization of the military. I mean, I would argue he did that in his first term, but you're right, and I think Hutch is right to view that incident as especially brazen, especially chilling.
Yeah. So what'd you two think, Boy, Hutch?
I mean, I think the speech itself, I mean, people are, I think, making a bigger deal about the reaction from the service people in the back relative to the speech itself. I mean, you know, there's probably reason to think that the military itself is not exactly this like incredibly partisan captured like fascist organization as of yet. Now, what I will say is that it's always troubling when any service person goes out of their way to you know, cheer for, you know, such a insane president to do such insane things And obviously the people who are participating, I think, in this sort of occupation of LA are likely participating in an illegal order. But I don't know. I don't have necessarily as much fear for the institution of the military as of yet. But I would agree that the rhetoric from Trump is completely insane. I mean, he recently said that he threatened people, if you protest the military parade, you'll be faced with dire consequences or severe consequences or something like that. And it's like, look, I mean, it's, you know, to Josiah's point, it's like, we always bring up Democrats, but again, it's worth mentioning that I cannot imagine the reaction from, you know, online, you know, Rob Noor, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, all these guys, if Joe Biden had come out and said, if you protest one of my speeches, you better be prepared for the severe consequences that will follow. In fact, I can imagine, and who knows what the actual parade will look like. I can only imagine that if a Democratic president came out and said that, the right-wing protests would be 10 times larger because of all the wall-to-wall media coverage that statement would get from a Democratic president. I mean, this guy, like Josiah said, we're only, 5 months into his second term. And the pace, you know, I said on his first day, and he can't keep this pace. He's got to slow down at some point, but it really doesn't appear that this administration is slowing down when it comes to trampling on what we think of as our very basic freedoms.
You know, I was just gonna say, can I add to that too? That like I take your point about, you know, the reaction if Biden had threatened protesters in front of uniformed military officers, but no, I think that even that aside, just the content of Trump's speech and the reaction from uniformed officers, to me, this is a problem because, you know, one of the through lines that we simply take for granted is the fact that unlike, you know, banana republics and coups and juntas and developing nations, you know, the military has been largely apolitical, even though obviously, you know, it's kind of like the notion of an apolitical court, right? That, you know, research indicates that, you know, the members of the military tend to skew conservative, although my assessment is that much of the brass and senior leadership are probably anti-Trump, even if they're conservative simply because of his authoritarian impulses. But to have uniform, it's the brazenness of it. They're not supposed to be attending political rallies or expressing partisan political viewpoints with that fucking uniform on. And all the cope that I've been seeing, well, he pre-screened them and they were given an option. No, you're not. Regulation doesn't say, well, if you choose, if you really, really feel a certain type of way about a particular party, you can do it with a uniform on. It doesn't fucking matter. If that uniform is on your flesh, you shut the fuck up when it comes to your partisan political views. End of sentence. And the fact that they violated it, Trump violated it, and presumably, like, we're seeing some like additional reporting that, like, again, the you know, the command chain in the military, at least on Fort Bragg, was aware of this as well, and they didn't care. That's a fucking problem. And so, like, just imagine Joe Biden or Barack Obama not just, you know, threatening protesters, but also just saying like shit talking George Bush or Trump, and uniformed members of the military jeering and cheering and whatever on partisan lines. Fox and the Daily Wire and Tim Pool, like, they'd all be flipping out, and rightly so. So yeah, I think it's a big fucking deal, especially when you put it in the context of, again, the Marine deployment and the parade this weekend. By the way, also put, according to reporting, there are supposed to be Golden Knight military units parachuting in to the White House and giving Trump a special birthday American flag. Like, I hope that they're fucking wrong on that. Like, but that might make me literally throw up if I see that. So,
yeah, maybe, I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, go for it, Hutch.
I was going to say that the speech itself, the imagery of it, like, was jarring to me, like physically jarring. Like, it made me kind of just pause and just like rethink everything I had been talking about that day. But it's not so much the speech, which is in itself pretty upsetting and disturbing and could foretell something pretty dark down the line. It's in the context of everything else that he's doing that I think is what makes it so chilling. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that he is deliberately trying to provoke counter protesters into violence in these big cities. Like, I think he wanted things to escalate in Los Angeles. And when I was watching the protest last night and yesterday, I was actually struck by how much worse it could have gone, because I was watching protests from Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. And there was a couple incidents of like minor violence here and there. You saw some protesters were getting very aggro. But I swear to God, in all 5 cities, I saw police officers that were actually like practicing restraint and not escalating. And this is in the face of kids that were like kicking barricades and doing other stuff. And there were a couple incidents that I think got a little too rowdy in terms of police, but it could have just been so much worse. Like if you imagine violence breaking out in all these major cities and then Trump sending in National Guard or military into all these cities, I feel like he definitely wants that to happen, which is why I think it's frustrating to see people sort of like hand wave the condemnation of looting and rioting. I don't know how much we should focus on that, but I feel like if you are going out there with the intention of like violently clashing with cops, I feel like you're doing exactly what Trump wants. And I feel like if that were to escalate and if that were to actually pick up, it could lead to some really disastrous results. So I wish that people would be just a little bit more thoughtful. That said, and I'm almost done, 99% of the people that I saw protesting were totally peaceful. Like absolutely 99.99%. So that was good. But yeah.
Well, I think the Democrats' rhetoric has been pretty spot on in this regard, not getting caught up. I don't know if this is a lesson learned or if Democrats are just on the ball in this regard, but it seems like the Democrats have been mostly playing offense in this regard, not really getting caught up in a lot of the rhetoric about like the riots and, the violence of all of these protests. And what about the waving of the Mexican flags? Oh my goodness, isn't that so controversial? It's like, no, look, we have our eye on the ball here, people. President Trump is ordering the U.S. military to occupy a U.S. city in a complete authoritarian overreaction to a protest that started out much smaller than it is now, and of course grew because of a reaction to Trump's over-policing of this event in the city at large. I mean, it's a clear overreaction, and I think as well, one thing that I don't know how much of a coincidence it is that this could have been any city, right? This could have been any city that he did this to, because there were protests across the whole nation with regards to ICE detentions and, generally speaking, the actions of the Trump administration. But I think it's probably telling that, he picks Los Angeles, right? A huge city in a blue state. I think it's
enormous
the
Hispanic population. It's like 40% of the city.
Well,
exactly. I think that. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say real quick before you deviate from that specific, you raised a really good point that I think we need to highlight. You said this could have happened in any city. Now, Pisco, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the executive order Trump signed to deploy the National Guard, it does not specify a time or a location? Like all the legal analyses
it's very
I've
broad.
seen.
Yeah. So
could you comment on that?
Yeah. So it from what I can tell is that it doesn't designate just merely California. It gives broad authority to the Secretary of Defense in violation of what the I think it's 10 USC 12406. That authority says that the orders shall be given through the governors, and that's one of the bases of the lawsuit that Gavin Newsom has filed against the administration. So
and they're going to rule on that tomorrow, right? Or they're going to rule
They're going to have a hearing on it tomorrow. Yeah, you're right. And it's just so obviously in terms of the legality of it, I think it's pretty illegal. The deployment of the Marines violates the Posse Comitatus Act when there's not been a proper invocation of some other authority where it would justify it. So it's illegal on at least two grounds. And then obviously the policy of it is very sweeping and broad. And as Econoboy mentioned, like in response to something where the need is not there.
Yeah, and I think as well, for people, I think for people who are saying, look, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just let people throw bricks at cop cars and stuff like this. I think fundamentally the principle that I would outline is there should probably be a very high bar. And I don't know, legally speaking, I'm sure there's like, precedents and things like this that you can rely on. But, generally speaking, there should probably be an extremely high bar for the federalization of the National Guard or deploying military into domestic situations. And we think immigrants are coming over at too high a clip, and we think that this, few hundred person protest is getting out of hand, is not the bar that I am comfortable with every subsequent U.S. president skirting in order to use any excuse that they can think of to deploy the U.S. military. I mean, we just, unfortunately, the Democrats, like, we're in a position where we have to make this kind of like institutional argument. It's like opportunity cost argument. It's just like conservatives. Just imagine like President AOC. Like, do you want her to have the authority to say, oh, that group of rednecks with their AR-15s is getting a little rowdy at that political protest. I'm going to send in the fucking National Guard to start arresting them. Like, this is a recipe for violence and confrontation and civil strife, not a recipe for, the proliferation of our liberty and democratic institutions.
So, Hutch, do you have anything to say to that? Because I've got something to say, but you haven't spoken in a minute.
Well, I just want to add, the police had already been making arrests. Like, there has been instances of looting. I think a couple nights ago, there were like 25 businesses that were looted, which is not great. And it's obviously the cops' job to protect those businesses. But when you looked at the imagery yesterday, the juxtapositions were absurd. There was one stream I was watching where it was literally like 15 people. And there were like 3 counter protesters there, that were pro-Trump. And they were arguing kind of mildly with the protesters. And then the camera pans over. There's 2 armored Humvees just chilling there for literally like 15 people. At most, yesterday, there were like 300 to 400 protesters in one location. The police sort of cordoned off certain streets and gave them room to march. As soon as they tried to take over the freeway, the police stepped in and like shoot them off the freeway. But the city accommodated them. There was very little violence from what I saw last night. And I don't know, just to put it into context, like during BLM, there were multiple protests that were going on basically every day. I went to one, there was like 5,000 people in West Hollywood protesting, and there were tens of thousands more protesting all over the city on a single day. To have this kind of militarized presence for like 300 people is fucking insane.
So a couple of things just to add there real quick. You say West Hollywood, and this is how my brain works. The first thing that pops into my head is Chappell Roan's Pink Pony Club.
I know.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but there we are. Number one. Number two, music 55KK. I don't know if they're in my chat or yours, but they said, why have a live if the chat can't ask you questions? I respect you all, but I thought this was a platform to keep us informed. I think you should answer super chat questions. That's fair. That's fair. We just because there's so much to unpack, we sometimes get distracted. We will be more diligent. Everybody keep an eye on good questions, and especially the super chat questions. Fair enough.
We don't tolerate protest on this show, guys.
That's right. There you have no right, no First Amendment here. Yeah. But the third thing is, I just can't help, some of the polling here is kind of interesting. Some of the preliminary polling. I saw that Rob Noor cited, I don't know if it was innovative polling or something like that, and which indicated that people supported, Trump deploying the National Guard. But I saw a YouGov poll that said the opposite, that people opposed the deployment of the National Guard and the deployment of the Marines more so. I saw another poll, not directly asking that question, but just about 12 hours ago saying that, I think it was also YouGov, that more Americans thought the protests were violent than did not. And it just kind of speaks to the asymmetry of not just the media landscape, but was it Insider Advantage? Thank you. Insider Advantage.
Yeah. Which they were actually quite good in 2024, but I did see the discrepancy that you're talking about because I saw those 2 polls.
Yeah, and so I'll be interested to see where the polling comes out on this, because that is something I'm worried about. And also, again, the asymmetry where, not to excuse, look, if they break the law, I have no issue with them being punished, and we should not condone, or we should not endorse rioting or violence or anything. And I agree. I don't see any evidence to support that is a winning message. But the problem is the asymmetry where if you have any sort of mass congregation of people in a situation like this, it seems inevitable at some level somebody will break a law or engage in an act of vandalism or an act of violence. It seems, again, I don't know what the sociology is behind or the criminology.
I don't even think that's true, though. The protest that I went to, there were 10 times more people, and there was literally no looting or anything like that.
I guess what I'm saying is, though, I'm just not aware of like a series of mass protests where there was not one fucking incident. But my point is this: the right-wing media apparatus, like how many of you have heard that Los Angeles is on fire? And all this like shit. Like that's what we're here. That's what people are being inundated in, and they can cherry pick, this piece of footage and that piece of footage. So it's almost like these protests have to be flawless in order to possibly undercut the message that it's a series of violent protests. Because like you said, Hutch, and like I've heard, and maybe if somebody has information that I don't, these are largely peaceful protests, and yet the perception is what it is.
There's a few disparate groups that go to these things. Like, first of all, you do have people that they do not give one single flying fuck about the cause. Like, the sun goes down and these people are just there to commit crime and loot, and they have nothing to do with the politics of it. But you also have a younger, like, and I observed this, like, and literally in every single city, you had people that were there kind of, waving like Mexican flags with signs like, nobody's illegal. And it was like a more kind of peaceful, not like heavily partisan crowd. They were just there to protest ICE. But at the front lines, literally in every single stream, you had this like young, super left element. A lot of them were wearing keffiyehs, a lot of them like literally waving communist flags. And they're sitting there like shouting at the police, calling them, like one of the crowds was chanting, ICE, KKK, IOF, it's all the same. Like, so they were tying it to like Israel as well. I'm not saying that I don't know to what extent the numbers are for these people, but the imagery of that, I guarantee you that does turn off normies.
No,
like, what can you do about that?
That's my point.
I have no idea. You can't tell them to go home. They have a right to be there and say that stuff. But
even if Democratic leaders condemn it, that's the thing that's frustrating. Again, you guys feel free to jump in whenever, but it's just like Democratic leaders are calling this out, and it's never good enough because they can't. It's not a top-down operation. This is so fucking different from January 6th, where the issue was the Republican leadership didn't take active steps to quell it. It'd be one thing if Trump was like, please fucking go home right now, and they didn't do it. Then I would be less inclined to blame Trump.
Josiah, okay. Democrats should never get tripped up on this issue and 100% play offense, okay? When the January 6th riot happened and you had people waving Confederate flags and shouting, hang Mike Pence, 100% of those people got pardoned by this president. It just pisses me off.
Can you angle your microphone? Because you sound like, there you go.
It might not be.
No, but look.
There you go.
There you go. That's better.
Yeah, sorry. For my entire adult life, Democrats have had to apologize every time a communist or some guy who's an anarchist goes to a protest and throws a brick through a window. It's not the Democrats' job to do that. These people are not part of the party.
It's not about apologizing. Nobody said anything about apologizing for that.
Because I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that it seems like the argument is, well, gosh, what are the Democrats supposed to do? It's like they always have to fucking apologize and like deal with this rhetoric. The answer is don't deal with it. They don't apologize for every fucking rally they have, people waving Confederate flags around and saying Democrats are pedophiles. And I don't think that the Democrats need to apologize when a guy has a fucking hammer and sickle t-shirt on and he's shouting at a cop. These are the same exact situation. And if their optics aren't negatively affected by it, which it appears it's to be quite marginal, it doesn't seem to affect the base at all. They just won the last election. I just don't think that the Democrats have much reason to spend productive fucking time on the airway, talking about this or apologizing for it. Yeah, riots are bad. Let's talk about all the crazy violations of our rights that Republicans are doing. And I'm not yelling at you because I love you. Okay, I'm yelling at. I'm just angry at the moment. Okay,
it's not about apologizing though. I mean, like I feel like you. Then I assume you agreed with the way that Newsom handled it in this speech.
Newsom's base, Emperor.
It was just like a really quick, like, people committed crimes. Here are the list of crimes that were committed. We did this many arrests, or that might have been the mayor. But Newsom just like very plainly said, like, if you go there and you break the law, we're going to arrest you. And that was that. He didn't spend a lot of time like saying like, we're so sorry. And, like we're so embarrassed by these people. Yeah. It was just like, if you break the law, you're going to get arrested. That's it.
Yeah. And I think AOC's tweet said it well, she addressed the Mexican flag issue specifically. And she talked about all the Confederate flag holders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to do this. It's pure offense, right? Just look, it's complete bullshit that the Republicans call this out. It's concern trolling. It's complete nonsense. These people don't give a fuck. A noun, a verb, and they pardoned every single January 6th rioter. Every single time someone brings up riots in this country, a noun, a verb, and they pardoned every single January 6th rioter. You cannot come up with an example analogous on the Democratic side. You cannot do it. It's impossible for conservatives to do it.
No, you're right.
Can I ask
you're
you,
absolutely right about that. Yeah.
Boy, are you because I tend to get feisty about these things genuinely. It's never performative. Are you really pissed off by the hypocrisy, or were you?
Well, yeah, obviously it's just very frustrating, and it's part of it.
I like that. I like fucking pissed off Econoboy. Genuinely pissed off. Okay.
Well,
good.
Part of the reason that's annoying is that Democrats they've really fallen for this over the years. Like, I just can't, like, there's so much airtime that Democrats fucking, speech time and airtime that they commit to, I'm not like those guys, and those anarchists are bad, and oh my God, I condemn all the right, and like, just, like Hutch said, quickly get it over with, 5-10 seconds, and then a noun, a verb, and the Confederate flag holding rioters on fucking January 6th got pardoned, okay? Because that is the relevant thing here. The parties are not the same in this regard. Oh, the Democrats support their rioters and the Republicans support theirs. No, they don't. Show me an instance where Biden pardoned thousands of fucking BLM rioters that burned down cop precincts or set fires to stores. You can't do it. It doesn't exist. Show me a Democratic governor doing the same thing. It doesn't exist. There's no analogous example.
I feel like there has to be a balance, though, because would you agree that the riots in 2020 hurt Democrats?
No, I agree, Hutch. There needs to be a balance. The balance should be 1% condemnation at the very beginning, and then 99% a noun, a verb, and the fucking rioters at January 6th got pardoned.
Okay,
Anyway,
so we're on the same page then, because but there are some people in like progressive media spaces that thinks that we should just not even talk about the violence at all. So not even 1%. And in fact, a lot of them, like, there's not even a small amount of them. A lot of them are saying, like, it's actually fine that they're doing that.
If you get directly asked the question, I think you should answer it, right? Obviously, you shouldn't ignore the question, but you shouldn't proactively dedicate any time to this. And with regards to answering the question, obviously, there's a better and worse way to frame it. And again, the Republicans have sold this con to people, their own base, and I think for the most part, the Democratic base doesn't believe in it, and independents are just all over the fucking place, that Democrats and Republicans are like basically the same when it comes to civil institutions, individual liberty, and how they use the power of the state. And that's not true. It's just completely fucking empirically bankrupt to say that. And so I think part of the messaging strategy that I'm describing is a direct attempt to try and turn that narrative. And it's like, no, guys, don't be the fucking frog in the boiling water here. Things are different. This is different. This is not the same as under Joey B. or Barack Obama, okay? This is very different than things used to be.
Super chat for Pisco. Who pays for all these court cases Trump is losing? We the people should invoice Trump for all the court cases. My figure is that he would owe $2 trillion. I will be glad to send the invoice. Can you confirm who pays?
Yeah, it's the American people. We pay the Justice Department to do this litigation and shit. But yeah, no, it's a lot of money. And part of the reason why I thought the Doe shit was so stupid is because you're courting a bunch of litigation, and that's ultimately what happened, and it's really, really inefficient. But no, I agree that, like, this shit is a fucking humongous distraction when we get all hot and bothered about, like, condemning people who aren't even on our side, or if they are on our side, spending more than a minute just saying the obvious.
So Econoboy said something earlier too that was one of the list of things I wanted to respond to, and then I forgot about it, and then he said something which reminded me. So he said, talked about making the case to Republicans that do you really want these awesome powers of the presidency to be so norm-based that a President AOC could simply invoke them at will? Now, I agree. I think that's a great question to ask. But I think at this point, they've even become desensitized to it because they either don't think there will be a President AOC or that even a President AOC would never avail herself of those powers. And so how many of, Hutch, you said that you're at a place where you're starting to, after Trump's speech at Fort Bragg, re-examine where your focus is. And I know that when it comes to like ruthlessness and wanting, Democrats to threaten to use powers more and saber rattle more, Econoboy and I tend to be on the more extreme side of it, I would say, than you. But to Conaboy's point, do you think we're at a state where Democrats, like Scott Galloway, you reacted to Scott Galloway's Piers Morgan thing, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So Scott Galloway's been making the case on all of his podcasts and all of his appearances, from Raging Moderates with Jessica Tarlov to the Pivot with Kara Swisher, not Carrot Swisher, that what Democrats should be doing is threatening Bukele and El Salvador and other countries like, hey, Trump's probably not going to be in power anymore. So if you keep fucking with us the next time we're in power, I think, how did he phrase it? He's like, we're going to turn your country into something or another. Like, we're going to basically cripple your economy. Like, start threatening in advance, saber rattle a bit, that when power changes hands, we will crush you if you keep giving us the finger. Are you at a point where you think that Democrats have to start signaling in a more aggressive ways that if, Trump is going to lean into deploying the National Guard, that the next time we have a Greg Abbott, Joe Biden situation, there will be no hesitation and we will federalize the National Guard and crush Republican governors? Like, do you think that that's going to have to start becoming part of the rhetoric and the strategy to get their attention?
I mean, what do you mean in the context of like Los Angeles? Like, how would you like to see Newsom respond?
Well, no, I'm not talking about how Newsom really can't, because he's merely a governor. But Econoboy's point is, right now, Trump is availing himself of constitutional powers that are norm dependent and don't require specific process. Like, my understanding is to invoke the Insurrection Act, for example, it's just an executive order. And a lot of legal scholars, and certainly Trump's position, is it's non-justiciable. So the courts, in their estimation, can't even review what constitutes a valid use of the Insurrection Act, right? It's just totally open-ended. And so Econoboy's point is, maybe the only way to get Republicans to back down from this is for them to fear that a Democrat will do this shit too in the future. Start, federalizing the National Guard in red states to enforce Democratic policy preferences and agenda, to try to use the National Guard and the Marines to intimidate Republican mayors, Republican governors. And so my question is, do you think that that is something that we might have to seriously consider?
I think that sounds like a horrible idea, personally. Yeah. Like a president actually doing what Trump is doing, just in the inverse?
Well, Econoboy, I don't want to misrepresent you. Like, what were you thinking when you talked about, like, President AOC,
No, he was saying that they would be pissed if that happened. I don't know if he was suggesting that we do that, right?
Oh, I took it to... Yeah.
I do happen to think that... I don't know about federalizing the National Guard because, frankly, that seems like a much less trivial thing to do. But I 100%, I'll debate anyone on it. Nobody's challenged me yet, but obviously, I don't know if they would anyway. But 100%, I'm serious that the next Democratic president needs to do a serious amount of trolling with the Trump v. USA decision. Like, that is an insane decision, and anything that you can do to pressure Congress specifically or judges specifically to overturn that, obviously with, I'm not talking about just throwing people in prison or, fucking hanging them in public or anything ridiculous like that. But,
nor I, because that's not even being threatened at the moment.
Like, any essentially personal inconvenience that the law can extend upon someone, that's just like purely an inconvenience, not like a permanent prison sentence or something, I think you should probably throw in the way of politicians, because I really do think that for the long-term health of our country, that Trump v. USA decision needs to go. Like, it is an unbelievably terrible decision. Pisco called it a Judicial Enabling Act. That is why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. That is how seriously I take it. I think that is one of the most disastrously insane authoritarian decisions that this court has ever come down with. But with regards to federalizing the National Guard, and I just don't know what that would look like necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't support it personally if, like, President AOC said, oh, this group of 300 people in bumfuck ass Texas is getting a little rowdy, so I'm going to send 1,000 National Guard troops to quell it down. I mean, no, that seems like it would be ridiculous. But just like thinking about the risk of that happening from a Republican perspective, it should seem obvious that you wouldn't want to risk that if you're a Republican. But obviously, it does seem, unfortunately, it seems to me that probably no matter the authoritarian act, as long as it's done to people in blue cities, the average Republican voter probably isn't going to care that much.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so first of all, forgot that I called the Judicial Enabling Act. I have a way with words. But also, there's one instance, Josiah, that comes to mind in the Biden administration where I said that Biden should assert federal prerogatives. And that was in the case where Governor Abbott out of Texas was, like, blocking access for the DHS under Biden to, like, get to certain parts of the border. And that was an instance in which everyone's like, oh my God, you're crazy, this or that, right? So I even went so far as to say, is if he asserts his federal power, federal prerogative, which he never actually did, he de-escalated, unlike Trump, who was escalating. And if Abbott refused, I would say arrest Abbott. I even said that, went as far as that. But there's a clear difference in my mind between what Newsom is doing vis-a-vis quote-unquote obstruction and what Abbott was doing. Non-acquiescence in the sense of not letting your state apparatuses be commandeered by the federal government is different than using those state powers to literally actively block some federal deployment. That's why I've been very kind of like interested in this case against this Wisconsin judge, and I've been very fair about it, because I do think that if she were involved in some kind of active blocking of a federal enforcement action, even if I don't agree with that enforcement action, I don't want to extend Trump versus United States even further to like state judges. I don't know if you saw this, Econo Boy, but like they're literally arguing in court that state judges should have access to this kind of sweeping immunity that was given to the president. I think that's a really, really bad idea to extend Trump versus United States even further. All this is to say, there are instances in which I think Joe Biden was too weak, far too weak, when it came to asserting certain federal prerogatives and certain, taking that good faith the other side. And I thought that was a shame in some instances.
I think it's predicated, and again, I don't know where Hutch is on this. Maybe we all agree, and I saw somebody in chat, spam this as well about tit for tat. And, I know for the longest time, like Destiny was making a really compelling case about this as far as like what Democrats have to do. And I don't see any disproving of that. I feel like, I have not seen any evidence of a limiting principle with these Republicans. Like, the military parade, like Rand Paul has criticized the military parade. And I think John Kennedy of Louisiana said, I wouldn't waste money on it, but he's the president. Like, there's just nothing that these fucks won't roll over for. And again, we're five months in. Think of that, the timeline, the context of all of this. We're not even halfway through 1 year of his first term or of his second term. Like, I feel like there has to be a level of tit for tat, and I think it's just finding out like what tat corresponds to which tit. Do you buy that?
I feel like once we start going down that road, like we are just kind of intractably on a path of just almost complete destabilization.
Disagree.
I understand that what we're confronted with now is really unlike anything we've ever been confronted with before. And it raises a lot of great questions about like, okay, well, the usual strategy can't work. So something new has to happen. There has to be some way to combat this. And I just feel like media strategy, like really competent, savvy media strategy, commanding like the news cycle, figuring out a way to like drive these narratives. I just think like with social media being so ubiquitous at this point, which is still a relatively new phenomenon, like we would do more lasting damage, I think, to their efforts and their popularity if we just had like, and this is like all of our big frustration with Democrats is because just I am so thoroughly unimpressed with the way that they're handling this in the media. There's like a few bright spots here and there, but it's just.
I think that obviously I do agree that if the difference between a Democratic and a Republican administration turnover is the difference between which counties of America are going to be occupied by the National Guard, that would be clearly a step way too far. It'd be completely insane to do that, But again, I do think that with the Trump v. USA decision, I just think that is that is a decision that enables, I think, every subsequent act of authoritarianism potentially in this administration and administrations beyond. Again, like when Trump v. USA, essentially the precedent is saying that you effectively just cannot hold accountable in a criminal sense the actions of the president, potentially other members of the executive and members of the court, right? And so I think the idea that I talked about a few shows ago of like, look, if you're going to say this, then every single time, you're going to get forensically audited and that shit's going to be released to the public. And, I'm going to have FBI agents just follow you around creepily and, like secretly record.
And I'll pardon everyone out the door. Like if my presidential immunity doesn't flow down, I think Pisco made the case that the the unknowable question about Trump v. United States, one of the many is that, since executive branch employees derive their power from the president, it's just delegated authority, does that immunity also get delegated? If not, the president on his way out the door could be like, hey, just follow these fucking orders and I'll pardon you.
Some people will say, one second, Hutch, some people will say like, oh, well, they'll say two things at once, right? They'll say, oh, well, in theory, you could be held accountable out when you leave office, right? But then at the same time, you've got people on the Republican side saying that you can self-pardon and you can also preemptively pardon. So in theory, I could be president for 4 years. I could literally do anything, like literally fucking anything, I guess, with a federal statute. And I could self-pardon myself preemptively right before I leave office. And, it's, that's an immutable power, right? The president has that power. You can't do anything about it. Fuck you. I completely get away with it. Walk free. Also, I got a presidential pension. Like, again, that's just a set of institutional arrangements that is completely untenable, if you ask me. Anyway, sorry, Hutch, I did interrupt you.
No, I was going to say, like, to be clear, like, I think you're touching on what I'm sort of touching on as well. So you could try to test that Supreme Court opinion in these really absurd ways that don't necessarily go as far as some people in chat want President AOC to send the National Guard into fucking Arkansas or something like that. Personally, I think that's crazy, and I don't think we should emulate Trump in that way. But, in terms of you testing that Supreme Court opinion, you can do that in ways that sort of like drive the news cycle and force people to have conversations, because there does need to be clarity about what are we actually saying the president can do. Are you really saying that? Let's put that to a test. And I think you can do that in a way that gets people talking in an organic way.
Well, I think it should just be explicit. Like, I think the next Democratic president should say, I'm doing this, and the reason I'm doing it is because Congress needs to pass a bill, bipartisan, to prevent me from doing it and every president in the future from doing it. It needs to be a constitutional amendment, and it needs to get passed by every state legislature, or this shit is going to keep happening. And or the court separately, why'd you audit all the Supreme Court members, President accountable boy? It's for the same reason. Someone needs to bring up a case saying this shit's illegal, overturn fucking Trump v. USA, or it's going to keep happening, right? You will be wildly inconvenienced. I love the idea, again, like just the idea of like, putting like a hold on every justice member's passport, right? So that they can't like travel conveniently. Like just stuff like that, where it's like, no, fuck you. You can't just sit in your fucking ivory tower and pretend that the Judicial Enabling Act you just passed is reasonable. It will affect you. This is bullshit. Like, you have to, overturn this or pass a law to prevent this from happening in the future. And frankly, look, I love the idea of the moderate solution. Just come together, bipartisan commission, just pass a bill like that. That shit doesn't exist anymore. That's impossible. You'll never get Republicans to the table to pass an amendment without, proving that this is some shit that's going to inconvenience them severely for the next 4 years. Same thing with these fucking ivory tower philosopher kings on the Supreme Court that think this substantially the same thing, right? So, I mean, they face it's complete. In economics, we have a term called moral hazard. Okay, when you're separated from the consequences of your actions, you end up taking a lot more risks. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court did when they passed this. They do not see the consequence of their actions because they are members of the elite. And, I think that the Democratic president should just be transparent with doing stupid little bullshit like that.
So that's a mic drop moment from you. I'd like Pisco to weigh in on a couple of things, not just what a Condom boy said, to what extent you think we're at the point where some saber rattling might be necessary to de-escalate, but also, do you take his premise that everything that Trump is doing now, 5 months in, how much of it does relate to Trump v. United States? Because honestly, I didn't even think about that there seems like there's a straight line there. Do you think that that's informed all of these overreaches that he's engaging in?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, Trump v. United States, it's not just about the explicit immunity holding vis-a-vis the criminal stuff. It's about Trump v. United States' entire vision for the executive branch and the notion that it's, the presidency is a branch unto itself. That is what is embedded in Trump v. United States, this kind of feeling that the executive branch must at all times be glorified in everything that it touches. And so you see that, again, kind of co-signed by the Supreme Court, as much as now they'd like to put the genie back in the bottle. It's present in what Russ Vaught is doing at the OMB. It's what Doge was doing. It's what Trump is doing with all these fake crises and emergencies. It's what Trump is doing with the deployment of the military. It's this vision of the executive branch that makes it the strongest branch by far and untouchable by the other branches. And these are where all the arguments are coming from in court that, oh, you can't review this. There's no reviewability of whether it's an emergency. You can't review my unilateral tariffs. You can't review this. You can't review that. And so, yeah, I think that Trump versus United States, the criminal stuff by itself is obviously driving some incentives, but also just the vision of the unitary executive that is approved in Trump versus United States. So I agree with Econoboy that that's very much at issue here, and it's causing a lot of problems.
So, Hutch, this one you might be able to answer super chat here. Nobody's talking about how disgusting it was for Trump to reference the LA fires while blaming Newsom for protests, homes and lives were lost, and Trump just uses it to further his BS narrative. As the California resident, do you have any comment about that?
I mean, that was infuriating. I mean, I think back to like really early in his presidency, we were dealing with those fires, and he directed the some military wing to go into Central California and then empty 2 billion gallons of water out of 2 central reservoirs, which there is no route for that water to get down to Los Angeles, but he just had it in his mind that he would just, quote unquote, release the water and it would get down there and fix the fires. None of that water obviously made it to Southern California. It literally just like went back into the soil. And then he was on camera that day bragging about how he like ended the fires. This is just, and I think what's particularly infuriating about it is just a lot of people take him at face value. They hear him make these claims and they're like, wow, that's great that he did this thing. And he is just this like cynical piece of shit that tries to weaponize like any instance of violence or natural disaster to reward his allies and punish his perceived enemies. And he is exploiting like very real pain. Those fires affected so many people. That was like a crazy week to live in Los Angeles when that was going on. And to have someone like him just using that event as some way to elevate himself is just fucking despicable. It gets me very riled up.
I bet it does. I have one more super shit chat to share, and then got a couple of clips and a couple things to show you guys.
Super shit? Is that what you just
Super
said?
chats.
So this is the real Mike Poole. This is the real Mike Poole, and we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna schedule it. But yeah, this is
Papa Poole.
This is Tim Poole's dad.
Nice. So he says only the Republicans can stop their dog. Direct protest toward Republicans. Republicans fear MAGA. Help them fear the people. Once Trump believes he controls the military, we are done. I agree with that last part. That's why I'm so freaked out about the Fort Bragg speech. It like fucked me up pretty bad. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about this?
Well, I just want to say, like, I feel like it's almost entirely lacking in the national discussion right now, this idea of an organized movement of protesters that are committed to nonviolence. Like, isn't that interesting that nobody's really talking about that right now? And this is a method of protesting that has a history of being effective in multiple countries all over the world. And it seems like there's just not that much of an appetite for that right now. That is concerning to me, because I feel like if we had a serious, massive, organized movement that was rooted in nonviolence, civil disobedience being disruptive, sure, but nonviolence, that would go a long way, I think.
So I want to share a couple of things with you guys and get your reactions to this, some like rapid fire stuff, a couple of clips, but I want to start with this one first because this one's so infuriating. So, you guys see this? Okay, so let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. Okay, so this is James Woods, who, by the way, amazing actor, and it's been really upsetting to see how far he's fallen.
He's been crazy for a while, but he is an amazing actor. I just watched Videodrome, and he's also obviously he did Hades and Hercules. He's actually. Did
you ever see The Specialist? Actor. I think it's The Specialist with him and Sly Stallone. He plays a great villain. Okay. And watching this brain rot's so sad. So he says, if I hear one more leftist shill in mainstream media utter the words, quote, peaceful protests, I'll throw up. And of course, they don't have the video, but he linked to a video from 2020 and everyone was calling him out for it, okay? And Ted Cruz retweeted it as well and basically co-signed it. And Gavin Newsom not only fact-checked James Woods, but also Ted Cruz. So then Ted Cruz just responded to Gavin Newsom. Okay, so when Gavin Newsom says to James Woods and Ted Cruz, this video's from 2020, this is what Ted Cruz had to say. Fuck me. Oh, right here it is. This is his cope. This is his fucking cope.
This is the cope for lying.
Yeah, well, you were governor in 2022.
Who was president? Who was president, Ted? This is what I never understood, right? Like all of these yeah, just tell him.
Mr.
Tell him.
Part-time senator, full-time podcaster.
Nice. This is where the magic
wants to know if you can, it wants to know if you know who was president in both 2020 and 2025.
Yeah,
you bargain bin Wolverine looking.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Fuck. Okay.
Well, I just want to reply to some people in chat here.
Yeah,
Go
ahead.
for it.
I did say, and I did mean that most of the protests that I saw yesterday have been nonviolent. And in fact, most protests that happen are nonviolent. That is true. I'm talking about a large, organized, sustained effort at disruptive civil disobedience that is rooted in the principles of nonviolence. That's what I'm talking about. I want to live in a country where that organization is making more headlines than the small amount of people that do violence.
So then there's that, and then there's this. Okay, so Donald Trump is about to attend Les Miserables, okay? And he's asked this question. He's asked a Les Mis question. I guess this is after the show. Here it is. Everybody brace yourselves.
We're not going to allow that.
Mr. President, can you tell us a question on the musical? Have you seen the musical before, and do you identify more with Jean Valjean or Javert?
Or Saber.
That last part of that question, that's tough, I think. You better answer that one, honey. I don't know. I've seen it. We've seen it a number of times. It's fantastic. I thought it was just about our first choice. That's what we got. And we have others.
I just love it.
We've seen
it. We've seen it multiple times. We've seen it many times, and
I don't know
it's
if I
tough.
sympathize more with Jean Valjean or Javert. It's easy for me. Javert, man, the law will not be mocked, bro, until he does. I saw Les Mis. Alfie Boe, I think he was my Jean Valjean, and we saw it in Australia, and it was awesome. Really, really well done there, and it's a great show. It's a shitty musical. It's actually a shitty story. Les Mis sucks, but the music is pretty fun. And
damn, that was like a rapid regression right there. Like you talked yourself so up, and then
it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. The story makes no sense. It's just full of bullshit, but it's a fun experience. I relate with the president.
I'm just kidding. Well, no, you don't relate with the president because he didn't give a fucking answer. That's my question.
I'm a little bit caught between. Yeah.
When somebody, but you know what the difference is. He doesn't know who the fuck they are. He's not paying attention.
He has
he's
cognitive decline. You're just trying to be. You're just trying to sweep.
I think it's
you're
the
trying to
funniest.
Sweep for Biden.
No, I think it's
you do
so
is trying
funny.
to sweep for Biden.
Did the reporter, when she asked that question, do you think she was fucking with him? Like, do you think it was a fucking troll, or do you think she genuinely? No, because
troll.
No. How do you? Here's the thing. I don't know anymore, and here's why. Do you remember when Trump was asked about his favorite Bible verse? Like those fucks,
there's so many of them.
They were not trying to troll him. They genuinely bought into it. This guy loves Jesus, and he is such a committed churchgoer. Mr. President, what's
the first line in the beginning? God created the heavens and the earth. Really good.
No, he doesn't even know that part. So then there's one more clip I wanted to show you guys real quick. I thought this was a fucking troll. I'm not so sure now.
I didn't get invited to the party.
My office, and it's kind of a great time of the year in the summer. My family comes up. My son and daughter-in-law and grandson are coming up because we were going to the White House picnic, but I've just been told that I've been uninvited from the picnic. I think I'm the first senator in the history of the United States to be uninvited to the White House picnic. The White House is owned by the taxpayers. We all are members of it. Every Democrat will be invited. Every Republican will be invited, but I will be the only one disallowed to come on the grounds of the White House. I just find this incredibly petty. I mean, I have been, I think, nothing but polite to the president.
Wow.
I have been a intellectual opponent, a public policy opponent, and he's chosen now to uninvite me from the picnic and to say my grandson can't come to the picnic.
This is one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen in my life.
The level of immaturity is beyond words. I've been here long enough that.
Dude, he's on the. This goes on for 7 fucking
Ren,
minutes.
no one gives a fuck that you were disinvited from the party, asshole. How about all the authoritarian maneuvers he's doing? Get a fucking grip. These guys are more offended by these little slights, the party, who gets a seat where. They don't give a fuck about you or me or authoritarianism. They only give a fuck about their little perks. Their little perks, where they get their parking spot, the party, this person. My grandson came all this way. Like, that's what they actually care about. It's disgusting.
Yeah, Rand Paul, I mean, he enthusiastically endorsed Donald Trump in 2020 and 2024 and 2016, right? Even after, I remember the clip of Rand Paul. He was like on the very far right of the debate stage because he was polling so low in the primary. And he like shouts out at Donald Trump, who's obviously in the very center. And Trump's like, yeah, whatever, Rand, you're so far down there. You're going to fall off the stage by the time the next debate is held, right? It's like, dude, you knew that this guy was like this, right? You're just mad, like Bisco said, because you got disinvited from a party, dude. Who gives a fuck? Like, I feel like if Thomas Massey,
the sad thing is, sad thing is, kind of boy, that half of our audience like really related to him. Like, this is mean. Like, why is this guy getting disinvited to the party?
Well,
so you need to check yourselves, right?
Maybe half of your fucking audience. I don't know. All my audience is part of the party, baby.
Hutch, we were all invited, baby.
Hutch, what'd you think? Like, you sort of say this is the most. You say it's the most pathetic thing you've ever seen.
I mean, does he not have any dignity? Like, that's crazy. That was just so pathetic.
He sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Did you like? He was so emotional. And that went on for 7.5 minutes. So
it was very salty.
Tactically, it's a very stupid thing for Trump to do when he's counting the votes to the Senate that he needs for his big, beautiful bill. I can't imagine that this is like a smart tactic. But at the end of the day, all these Republicans are fucking cucks. And so who knows? Maybe it'll actually light a fire under his ass, the party thing.
Let's see. All right, let's take a look here. Hutch linked this. New Quinnipiac poll gauges national sentiment on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Jesus.
2/3 of registered voters have heard/read a lot or some about it. Support is 27%. Opposition is 53%.
Just brutal.
And 20% had no opinion.
The bill sucks.
They're going to get fucked up in the midterms. They're going to get fucked up.
Dude, I wish I had your confidence. I take nothing for granted anymore. I don't know. I just don't know. But yeah, that is a fucking brutal poll. That is brutal.
It's because the bill is garbage, and I had some people try to defend it. It's really, really difficult for them to defend it when they're actually pushing an actual conversation, because it just sucks. If you're like a small libertarian conservative or whatever, it sucks. If you're like one of these Elon cucks, it sucks, obviously. And so basically the only through line for why it would be good is because you just like anything Trump does and because you think it'll be convenient for Trump.
I love Scott. I was watching clips of Scott Bassett, the Treasury Secretary, and Scott Bassett's interesting, right? Because my sense that I get from him and all the insider reporting that I've seen is like he really disagrees with almost like the entirety of the Trump economic message and like general political agenda, but he loves being the Secretary of the Treasury.
He loves having a job, yeah.
Right, yeah. And so he's caught up in this very awkward position. It was just bizarre, right? Because it's like, how do you defend the indefensible? He was getting asked about the big, beautiful bill, and he was like, okay, he was getting asked about like the regressivity of the bill, the tax cuts for the rich, and actually the tax increases on the poor because of benefits cuts. And he said, well, these leftists, I mean, they always want to talk about the absolute amount of money getting distributed. But, think about it, right? If I weigh 200 pounds and, my sister weighs 100, if we both lose 10% of our body weight, she loses 10 pounds and I lose 20. And it's like, yeah, no shit, Scott. That's what everyone's criticizing, is that you're distributing the equivalent taxpayer, if you're rich, is getting like hundreds of thousands of dollars from this bill. But if you're cutting like a poor person's income tax by 2 percentage points or whatever the fuck, they're getting like 500, right?
And then it's the difference. It's not the difference between like 2 yachts and 1 yacht. It's the difference between like, I don't know, maybe the heating and some good food this month. So poor people have a greater marginal propensity to consume. and their consumption at those margins like matters more to them, and so obviously it's more of a social good to make sure that these people are taken care of. Yeah, Scott Best and these people, they just turn into these like postmodern, I don't know, philosophers, neo-Marxists. Whenever you ask them questions, you ask Benny Johnson, like, what is money actually?
Of a fucking loser. I would just listen. All I'm going to tell you is watch your fucking mouth about Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who reportedly got into a tussle with Elon Musk.
Oh my God! Did we talk about that? Wait. So our last episode was like before the real Elon. So in the time space between our last episode and this episode, there was the biggest fucking beef of all time.
Well, we'll get to that. We got to get the super chat before it scrolls off the screen. There needs to be better organization and leadership for these protests. Democrats need to coalesce around messaging and not let these cringe people destroy the movement from within. Who is the cringe? To whom? Based? To whom is the cringe referring?
He's talking about the tankies.
The tankies?
Well, yes. I mean, again, like to respond to that, like to the extent that the Democrats are like letting the tankies or whatever capture Democratic messaging, it's only because they're falling into the Republican trap of overanalyzing and over talking about it. I think that, again, like if you're in a Democratic strategy meeting, it's a noun, a verb. We condemn riots and violence, but also, the January 6th protesters, rioters all got pardoned, right? And look, again, I think that when people say, Democrats should stop like acquiescing or dealing with all these far leftists, it's like, dude, like this, where does this happen? Like, is the Democratic Party a far left socialist organization? Like, are they really pulled significantly in that direction by, the types of people that we're talking about here? Like, no, I don't think so. I think that they just get caught up in the messaging. When in reality, it's like, look, I agree with almost the latter half of that, where it's like, we shouldn't message towards these people. The way that you like don't message towards these people is to just recognize that they're a very small minority of like the broader left movement. And when, you poll socialists, right? Socialists, 90% of people who describe themselves as socialists vote for Democrats, right? Like, most like people who are far left are just like Democratic voters, right? And so, don't get caught up in that messaging and just reframe it attacking the much more radical Republicans.
I don't know I don't know how much you can just straight up ignore it though. Because the perception is that with a lot of voters that are sort of like not super engaged, the perception is that Democrats don't care about this kind of violence. And you can say it's bullshit, but that's still a perception that you have to contend with one way or the other. And you seem to be taking the position that you sort of largely just ignore it or deflect to, January 6th pardons. I mean, I'm kind of with you on the things that you're saying, but I think maybe we differ a little bit because I do think you have to address it somewhat. I do think you have to counter that narrative in some kind of way. You seem to think that it's like if they take a strong stance against rioting or whatever, they do a press conference and they spend 5 minutes talking about how rioting is unacceptable. You seem to be thinking that it's like playing right into their hands, but it is a political reality that I think on some level you have to take seriously. How's that working out so far? Like this, they do largely kind of ignore the like far left tanky crowd, and yet the Republicans have been somewhat successful in associating that kind of violence and that kind of ideology with the Democratic Party. And so you either have to get creative or I don't know.
Yeah, I totally understand that, right? That's why I said, look, anytime that you're directly asked about violence or rioters or, communists or something like that, just say, look, I'm not a communist. I don't believe in rioting and violent protests or anything like that, right? That's obvious, right? If you're directly asked the question, obviously answer it. But one of the reasons that I think that at least my strategy is it'll be more effective is that to the extent that people in their minds associate the Democrats with like communists, look, in my view, I don't think the kind of person who thinks that the Democratic Party is a communist party is ever reachable. This isn't a reachable person. Okay?
No. Now, that's a more extreme example though. Like I'm talking about like the perception that Democrats are too soft on crime during these cities, or Democrats are not doing enough to sort of like crack down on violent elements when protests pop up. That's a real perception. Not not like, oh, Democrats are communists, but that's more common thing that people think.
Well, right. But I think that, again, going on offense reframes that, accomplishes both goals at once, right? Because now you're reframing the discussion and you're pointing out that Republicans are worse on this. For instance, what did Newsom say when Tommy Tuberville, that dumb fuck football coach senator from Alabama, of course, Alabamans voted for a fucking football coach to be their fucking senator. But no, like the point is, like when that dumbass
he pointed out that the murder rate is higher.
Yeah, when that dumbass pointed out that the murder rate in California is out of control, he pointed out that in red states the murder rate is much higher than in blue states, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, these blue cities are violent." It's like, bro, look at the statistics. You're much more likely to get murdered.
Did you see Mark Wayne Mullen's response to that, though? Econoboy Senator
Oh,
Mark
I'm sure
Wayne
it was
Mullen?
fucking brilliant from Mark Wayne fucking Mullen.
Yeah,
You know,
Mark
I'm
Wayne
sure it
Mullen's
was.
he's like, I just saw this because I was actually doing my job, and I look at it, and I just look at statistics, and there's a lot more murders in California than there be in the red.
Fucking
And so, yeah, he
brilliant
fucked up per
from
capita.
dumbass Mark Wayne Millen. Yeah, no, of course, right? This is the fucking stock of the fucking Republicans in Congress, right? And so I think that, again, going on offense accomplishes both those goals at once, where you get to go on offense, Hutch, but then also you reframe it in the voters' minds and say, look, if you just fucking have a factual view of the fucking world, Republicans are holistically worse at governance. You are much more likely to be the victim of a violent crime if you live in a red state versus a blue state. And if you're talking about, riots directly or something like that, yeah, just condemn it. But I don't think that spending a whole shitload of time we already agree. You already said you'd agree with my general framework on this, that I don't think spending a lot of time, condemning communists and, people throwing bricks at cop cars is really valuable because, again, the party that actually supports violent protesters, the party that actually supports violent protesters is the Republican Party. There's no analogy here, right? And that's the
I don't even think
this
this is. I don't even feel like this should necessarily even be political. I feel like most people are just principally opposed to this kind of violence generally.
Absolutely
and just addressing that. I think. What do you mean? What exactly are you talking
totally
about?
Disagree.
Are you talking about like sympathies for like January 6 people, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't think that with regards to why does this have to be a partisan issue? Of course I agree. Like, in principle, I don't think it should, but the reality is that people are fucking completely blinded in this society by their partisan binoculars, right? And when a Republican, thinks that I think if you had to ask the average Republican voter to describe the conditions in LA, they would describe conditions that probably look like a trailer for the next Call of Duty video game. It is absurd, the view that these people have of democratic
I understand
cities.
that.
Really quick, Hutch, and the only fucking reason that they have that view is because of the propaganda that has been, and it's to some extent it's not their fault. State propaganda is effective. It just works. It's been funneled into their fucking brains. And so it is up to the Democrats to come up with a penetrating message to try and shift that discourse to the left. And you're not going to do that.
Well, I don't know what you mean by shift the discourse about what to the left. What are we even talking about here?
About who's better at governance if your concern is violence in cities, violent crime, riots. It is clear, based on all the evidence that you can actually look at, that the better holistic party is Democrats in this regard. And so you have to play offense to do that. You can't shift that discourse by disproportionately playing defense. And I think it's disproportionate to spend more than 1% of your time apologizing for democratic governance, or Governor Newsom going on a fucking apology. You're right, Republican tour. Steve Bannon, can't we agree on this and that? That's not the way to change the discourse, if you ask me.
This feels like a bit of a contradiction, because you're saying we should make the case that the blue states and blue cities are better at like policing our neighborhoods or keeping this kind of violence in check. But one way that you would express that is by just demonstrating that by doing it and then talking about it. So you have people like Karen Bass up there and talk about 200 arrests were made and 25 businesses were looted and that's unacceptable. But then when she says stuff like this, or when Newsom says that violent protesters will be prosecuted, you get this chorus of people, the same characters that have massive platforms, that complain that these Democratic politicians are just addressing the violence. That's
but Hutch,
fucking insane.
Again, like we can't. The far left.
You're saying don't give them a win, but it shouldn't even be about that. It should just be
Hutch,
like literally like, okay, if there's rioting, we're going to take care of it. Obviously,
Hutch, there were people who were protesting Zohran Madani because he had the gall to accept an endorsement from AOC, because apparently accepting an endorsement from AOC makes you too far gone in the eyes of a small minority of even the pro-Palestinian left out there, right? Yeah, and you can't spend a lot of time, acquiescing or over focusing on small minorities of people like that. Like, yeah, Hassan and people like that are going to complain no matter what Democrats do, but I don't think it's worth getting caught up on that. That's just a very small group of people.
Think about it this way though, like if you wanted the Republican Party to be successful in the long term, and if you wanted the party to be like healthier, you would want that party to And obviously they're not exactly doing that, but you would want them to like disavow and distance themselves from kind of like the kind of violence that we saw on January 6th. And similarly, you would also want Democrats to just signal loud and clear, like, this is what we stand for, this is what we do not stand for.
But
and
Hutch,
I do think there needs to be some effort made to put distance between ourselves and like the fringe element.
Hutch, I mean, obviously there needs to be some effort in that regard. Again, if somebody asks you the direct question, Twitch streamer Hassan said
you should
this.
be proactive. You don't wait.
I totally disagree.
Are you
though.
specifically referring to putting distance and disavowing from? Are you talking about people like Hassan? Or are you talking about in terms of condemning violence at protests? Because if it's the latter, honestly, I think both. Democrats are like really, really fucking good at that. And it just doesn't make a difference.
To be honest with you, they should put distances between themselves.
Fair enough, but to clarify, you would agree, I guess, that elected Democrats do a consistent job of condemning violence. They did it in 2020, and they're doing it now. You would agree with that, right?
I think they're doing a better job now than they were in 2020 on the whole. But yeah.
Oh, I thought they did an excellent job. Like I thought elected Democrats were pretty, from what I remember, in 2020 and now, like doing a really good job of, supporting peaceful protests but condemning the violence in no uncertain terms.
A lot of them, not all of them. I just feel like what I observe, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what I observe from some people is that in the online space, the ones that have massive platforms, there seems to be this idea that if you acknowledge that certain like looting and violence happened, and at a limited scale or whatever, it's not like 7 square city blocks or whatever, but just like if you acknowledge that it happened, and if you signal to the people that are going to protest that they will be arrested if they do any kind of violent actions, people cringe at that. Like people like Hassan and people like I would assume Majority Report, they cringe at that kind of stuff. They think that you're playing into Republicans' hands by doing that. And I'm saying you should just be doing it by default anyways, because most people don't want that in their communities.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't watch a lot. I really don't watch a lot of Hassan. To the extent that I've got an opinion on him, I'll say I am often perplexed at how, like Pod Save America and a couple of others, like I see it in my feed a lot that they interview him, given his reticence. I mean, I know he's obviously extremely successful and very influential, but given his persistent reticence to ever really endorse or support the Democratic Party, I probably would just cut bait after a while and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend time bitching about you, but if you're not going to show us some love,
I think they will eventually figure that out.
Well,
I don't think they know enough about him.
That to the extent that I've got an opinion on Hassan, I would just say that, like, hey, Democratic politicians, you should probably be spending your time with other content creators that are, willing to actually endorse what it is that you're doing and your candidates and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like, I don't know what.
Well, Republicans have known this for more than a decade. I think it was Mitt Romney, I want to say in 2012, who,
right.
He was reported as like, oh, no apologies was like a policy of his campaign or his strategy, right? Because by even like apologizing for anything, right? Even if it's something that you should apologize for. And I don't think Democrats, and I'm using apology as like an umbrella term for, acquiescence or anything like that. Like to the extent that you spend time apologizing for groups that aren't even, to Josiah's point, substantially part of the Democratic Party, you're not only wasting your time, you're bringing further attention to it. And you're making it seem as if it's actually an important issue that Democrats need to address, when I just simply don't agree. I think that, and this is not a principle of mine. It's a strategy that I think is much more reasonable. That if you want to change, and Hutch, you agree, the goal here is to change people's mindset with regard to the Democrats and certain issues that I guess you feel like are sticky.
I mean, I want to change. Honestly, I want to. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the more effective way to do that is not to, like you said, proactively condemn, this like broad swath of members of the online left, or, the quasi, activist online left, or whatever that is. It's instead to just say, look, brass tacks, if I'm directly asked about it, I condemn violence, I condemn rioting, this and that. If you commit a crime, you're going to be arrested. But when it comes to my time, like what I'm going to be spending my time talking about. It's about the murder rates in these other states. It's about their holding Confederate flags. It's about they pardoned the fucking January 6th rioters, because I think that's how you win elections. You don't apologize for the crimes of the online left. You point out the very real radical governance of the Republicans that is like destroying this country. Anyway,
Well,
that's
I mean, I was gonna say I think you can do both, but I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, it would be. I don't understand this impulse in the progressive space to just like ignore this stuff or excuse it or even encourage it in some extreme cases. You know, I feel like these people absolutely cringe when people bring up the fact that they don't want to see like looting and rioting. They do the fucking Martin Luther King quote, totally out of like devoid of any context or whatever. They say that riots are the language of the unheard, and they do all this shit. And it's like 90% of people in this country, they don't like seeing that kind of stuff in their communities. Yes, it was limited. You're right about that. I don't think we should make it a bigger issue than it is. But I question why so many people with these massive platforms play into this infantilization of fucking protesters. They say stuff like, well, what choice did the protesters have? We've tried peaceful protest. It's like that has nothing to do with what's going on. What I observed when I was watching these streams was these young, I mean, these were like very young people. They were all had their phone out. They were screaming. They were like spitting at cops and shit. And like, I don't think that we should infantilize that. I don't think that we should fucking at all celebrate that or excuse it or say that this is like acceptable behavior. And I think it's a problem that's like super prevalent in progressive spaces right now.
Well,
I'm a fucking progressive,
and
I think that like I don't understand this instinct that they have.
This is not super prevalent. Hold on, I just
last word to you, and then we'll move on.
This is not super prevalent, right? We have to look at the macro picture here, right?
Don't say that.
Bernie Sanders, no, Hutch, it's absolutely true that this is not super prevalent. I'll
in
prove it to you.
progressive media spaces.
I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you.
Really?
Okay. Well, let me prove it to you. Give me an opportunity. So,
okay,
Bernie, you know, how many votes did Bernie Sanders get in like both primaries, right? I don't know. Like cumulatively, it was probably like 20 million, 25 million votes or something like that across the two different primaries that he ran in, right? Something like 90 to 95% of Bernie primary voters, right? So we're already talking about like, 20 million people, right? A huge minority of the population, Bernie supporters that actually vote. Because again, we shouldn't care about the ones that don't necessarily vote. Like 90 to 95% of those people end up voting for the Democratic nominee, even though in both of those elections, they were very, very centrist and they were very, very criticized by the exact kind of people that you're talking about, right? I just think that it's important to realize that even the DSA is the largest socialist organization in this country. They have a total national membership of like 70,000, okay? 70,000. These are very small groups. And I agree with you that obviously the very, very small groups of people can co-opt the messaging for larger groups. But I think it's reasonable when people say, look, you're criticizing like progressives in general, when the reality is, fuck, 95% of them vote for Democrats.
But I'm not, though. I'm talking about progressive media. And you and I both know that all these enormous progressive media spaces, like maybe the Young Turks, I don't know, maybe that's changing with the way that they're pivoting, but like definitely like Majority Report, we already mentioned Hassan, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, like that whole space. Would you agree that these people are almost like physically averse to condemning this kind of violence?
I guess I don't know. I mean, I think that there are some. There are certainly some. No.
What about
quick,
hold on, Pisco and Josiah? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Like, I think they don't like to condemn it, but that's just me.
What'd you say, Pisco? What'd you say, Pisco?
I don't think that they like to condemn it. I don't know about physically averse, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, like I certainly get some hesitation from the more left side of the commentary, like Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland and Hassan and all that. And we could probably speculate as to why, but like, yeah, do I see some reticence? Yes, I just don't know how much of an outcome determinative role that this plays in how people perceive us. And
these people have massive platforms. You guys realize this, right?
But it's clear that they only have very marginal influence, right? And I think that, if you're going to narrow the conversation to progressive media, I just say that I'm not sure, because honestly, I don't watch a lot of just progressive media, period, nowadays. I tend to just kind of absorb my own news through different articles and stories that get posted. But that's why I'm saying I'm not really sure. Maybe what you're saying is right, but we have to always say it's not the progressive movement, because it's absolutely factually not. You might say, oh, it's a portion of progressive media, influencers or something like that are using their platforms irresponsibly. Maybe that is true,
Well,
but
who should? Sorry.
I was just going to say, last thing is that we just have to recognize that by not being careful with our wording, and by using phrases like, oh, the progressives or the progressive movement or things like that, it's, again, we're playing into the exact same
Well,
hand
what do you want to call
these
it? What do you want to call
conservatives
this space? I don't know what
have. Well,
else to call it.
if you wanted to say some progressive media figures, you could do that. I mean, I think that would be more sensible.
It's a shared ecosystem, though. That's what there's a lot of overlap. They watch a lot of the same creators, and like, I guess the question is, like, should anybody push back against that? I think the answer is yes, and I don't think it should only be right wingers that are pushing back against that.
I'll just say as a general proposition, I thought that's kind of where you said that you were revisiting your position. I think our time is better spent focused on the right.
No, it's not a question about I do think that I want to be more intentional about like how much time I spend on these things.
Sure.
But I am not saying we shouldn't critique that stuff.
I would just say, if it were me, honestly, I would issue some sort of statement condemning this and that or whatever, and then just fucking copy and paste it every time. I would just, like, if it were a tweet, I would pin it and just like somebody, I want you to condemn. Here you go, right here. Moving on. Did you know that Donald Trump pardoned, the January 6th? Like, that's what I would do. I just think it should just be such a fraction of what we focus on, because I'm still not convinced that this is in any way outcome determinative. I agree with you that
I just don't understand that. I mean, these people have massive platforms. You realize that, right? Like shared collective.
There's another fear. I have a fear of overcorrection because I want to see more protests.
I mean, that's valid. That's valid, sure. But
I'm concerned that we might dissuade people from actually protesting. So that is a genuine concern of mine.
Well, and speaking of go ahead, Hutch, give the last word, and then I do want to segue since they mentioned protest.
No, but I want to see more protests too, but like, that's why I think it's important that people, like, if we're going to be organizing protests or taking parts in protests, we should be like very intentional, very clear that we're talking about a non-violent protest. It doesn't mean
wait. I'm sorry. If you're talking about that, I thought you meant like pushing back on like specific creators.
Well, no, I mean,
that are hesitant to condemn the violence. To me, it's two different things.
I think both. Yeah. I think both.
Okay. Well, I totally agree that any calls to protest or any encouragement to protest also has to stress the importance of nonviolence, as Senator Sanders has done, and AOC and Governor Newsom. I totally agree with that. I'm not going to spend a shit ton of time, Sam, why do you hesitate to, say vociferously that violence is bad at protests, and Hassan and all that stuff? I'm not prepared to do that. But real quick, since real quick super chat, 2 super chats. The right would set your Waymo on fire on purpose if they had permission from power. Their virtue is power. Hutch is playing their virtue signal game. Hutch, you respond to that, and then I've got another super chat.
Read it again. What did it say?
She said the right would set your Waymo on fire on purpose if they had permission from power. Their virtue is power. Hutch is playing their virtue signal.
It's not virtue signaling to say that setting 5 fucking Waymos on fire has nothing to do with protesting ICE.
Or does it? Have you ever considered that? Have you ever considered, or does it? No,
okay, tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. If these protests continue to escalate and if they start to get violent, maybe not on the level of 2020, but if we start seeing imagery of burnt Waymo cars in fucking major metropolitan areas all over the country, do you or do you not think that is going to empower Trump, and it will make him more popular with normies?
I think it is.
And it will make him more popular with normies.
I think it is way more likely to empower Trump if that happens. Okay,
great. Then we should be very vocal about like stressing the importance of not doing that or not hand waving it. That is my point.
Okay.
Unburn the Teslas, unburn the Waymos.
Yeah. Another protest related super chat, but I lost it, was about the No Kings protest. So I do want to, he was like, can we talk about the No Kings protest real quick? And I do
let's talk about them.
I do want to highlight that.
Saturday, right?
Tis indeed.
Yeah. I might meet up with IRI.
You're going to meet up with IRI? Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Whoa, that's cool.
That is cool. Wow. What to know about counter-protest to Trump's June 14th parade? protest events planned for June 14th, places with planned rallies, meetings, or visibility events as of June 3rd, 20. Really? Oh, it was updated a day ago. Okay. So, all right.
Hold on. Do you see the shit in chat, by the way? Do you see what I'm saying right here?
What are they saying, Hutch?
Oh, the poor Waymos. Oh, the poor Waymos.
You are such a, you're so,
No.
dude,
It's not just one guy. It's not just one guy. There's like,
yes,
They're all one guys.
They're like,
they're all
it's not. It's like it's probably like 6 or 7. Okay.
Remember your training. Remember that Zen sense. Was it Nirvana? Is that what it is that you achieved, where you were no longer getting in Twitter arguments?
Yeah,
remember
I know.
that?
I gotta go back to that.
I know. I never got there.
No, I've been ignoring them for the last hour and a half, but I've seen these little fuckers in the chat. This is the shit that I'm talking about. They like hand wave Waymos. They're like, oh, who gives a fuck about the Waymos? Meanwhile, 90% of the country sees that and they're like, that's fucked up. I don't want to see that. And these guys are like, oh, fucking, what somebody think of the poor business that got looted?
Well, guys, if you want to trigger Hutch, you know what's up.
Well, now I'm pissed because I've been staring at it for like an hour and a half. These little
buy a bunch of
fuckers.
Tamagotchis
downtown LA smashing windows, guys. If you think it's so fucking cool,
He's
go
way
do it.
more angry than he was. I love that.
Don't do it. Actually, don't do it.
Funds.
What to know about counter-protests on Trump's June 14th parade? Protesters are taking to the streets and community hubs nationwide on Saturday, and what organizers expect will be the largest single-day anti-Trump rally since the start of his second administration. The widespread movement will run counter to Trump's multi-million-dollar military parade in D.C. Quote, "No Kings is a nationwide day of defiance," organizers wrote. From city blocks to small towns, from courthouse steps to community parks, we're taking action to reject authoritarianism. More than 100 pro-democracy advocacy groups are partnering to organize the No Kings event. Quote, "Donald Trump wants tanks in the street and a made-for-TV display of dominance for his birthday," the No Kings website said. Quote, "A spectacle of strength, a spectacle made to look like strength, but real power isn't staged in Washington. It rises up everywhere." Trump said on Tuesday that any protest during his parade would be met with, quote, "very big force." By the numbers, millions of people are estimated to protest in more than 1,800 rallies across all 50 states and commonwealths, including Puerto Rico, organizers said. Some international rallies are also planned in other countries: Colombia, Malawi, Italy, Portugal, Germany, the United Kingdom. Trump proposed a military parade on his 79th birthday in the U.S. Army's 200. Okay, by the way, I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here. You tell me what you think. Guys, it's not Trump's. It's just sheer cosmic calendar coincidence that it happens to be Trump's birthday. That really has nothing to do with it. You guys are bitching way too much about this parade. What do you say?
I mean, even if it was like, 6 months after his birthday, like the furthest possible point from his birthday. I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, my understanding is that there's a reason why historically the American military and presidents didn't do military parades, because the only countries that tend to do military parades like this are, authoritarian ones, right? And the imagery is something that we seem to have historically not really appreciated. But obviously Trump, what with wanting to be a dictator, actually very much loves that kind of imagery. And so I think that's really, the fact that it's on his birthday is, I guess, an extra criticism, but that's 0.5% of the reason why this is such an insane thing to do.
Also, I do believe that there will be a recognition of Trump's birthday at the parade, which will make me vomit. What we're watching, the Women's March is separately organizing protests called Kick Out the Clowns. As of Tuesday afternoon, more than 13,000 people RSVP'd across 320 events. Quote, "June 14th is our chance to reflect the absurdity of the MAGA regime and the clowns who lead it," its website said. So I'm just going to try to find.
And it looks like there's more protests across the country tonight. So, I mean, there could be something kind of like picking up right now, which is good, which is really, really fucking good, in my opinion.
Let's see. Yep. NoKings.org. In America, we don't
Have you
do
guys
kings.
ever watched Schoolhouse Rock?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a song called "No More Kings," and it's a good one. You guys should check it out.
Look at you with these musicals. You're talking about Les Mis, Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock. I thought you boomers would know what Schoolhouse Rock is.
Boomers, yeah, of course. Like even in Kentucky, we were learned about Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yeah, exactly.
Your voice is underrated there, Josiah.
I often say that. I'm alone.
Hutch,
saying
I'm
it.
sorry.
Some would say Go ahead.
I laughed at a comment, Hutch. I'm sorry about it. That it was like Roomba lives matter. I'm just,
Stop it.
I was just. Hey,
Okay.
No, we
Well,
love.
wait a
Hutch.
minute.
Can we
In
get
all
some love-
seriousness-
love for Hutch in the chat. Can we get some love?
And
for
Hutch, I am curious now that he brought it up.
Whose audience is this, by the way?
It's probably
not
fucking
mine.
Peace
It's not
Goes. It's
mine.
Peace
It's
Goes.
not me.
Who's courting these little fucking
it's-
radicals?
it's
probably
not
Peace
me.
Goes,
radical
but-
shitheads. Who
Okay,
are they?
so
Gotta be a
Hutch,
convoy.
did you ever watch Good Son, A Good Son with Macaulay Culkin? Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, of course. I
Okay.
met Elijah Wood in real life. He lived 2 blocks down the street from me.
What the fuck? You were Lord of the Rings adjacent?
Before he was in Lord of the Rings, yeah. I saw that.
God damn. Okay. All right. So, okay. Great reference. For those of you who don't know, A Good Son is a horror movie, thriller movie with a young Macaulay Culkin. Fresh off Home Alone, he plays a sociopathic, murderous child. You should definitely watch it. Spoiler alert, the end of the movie. He and Elijah Wood, who play his cousin, they're dangling off the side of a cliff. And Macaulay Culkin's mother can only save one of them. Her son's a sociopath. Elijah Wood is not her son. It's her nephew, but he's not a sociopath, so tough choice. So, Hutch, you are Macaulay Culkin's mother, and you are trying to save a Waymo and a Roomba. Who do you let go? Who plummets to its demise, and who do you save? The Roomba or the Waymo?
I only have experience with a Roomba, and I'm very happy with it. So
Fair enough. So,
yeah, I would
yeah.
pick that one.
I've actually. What's funny was like when I first heard about the Waymo thing. I can't remember where I was. It with Peace Go. Like somebody asked me about the Waymo thing. I'd never heard of one because they've not made it to Charlotte yet. We still have Uber, so I've not had the pleasure of a Waymo.
Listen. I just want people to be fucking normal. That's all I'm saying. Just be
understand.
fucking normal. To Econoboy's point,
Would you
he's
say
right.
you'd want them to be Waymo normal?
I need people to be way more normo in this day and age. To Econoboy's point, literally just one sentence, just a few words. Like, yeah, that's fucked up. We shouldn't be doing that, or not we, but like people shouldn't be doing that. That's it, and like literally mean it because it's probably a good thing to mean that. That's all you got to do. Don't do this whole fucking like. Won't somebody think of the windows and the Waymo and the fucking? Just
Is
be
Gavin Newsom running
normal.
for president in 2028?
Yes.
Obviously, yeah.
This
What
did
the
you
fuck?
guys watch that?
Come on, guys.
I had it pulled up here. Obviously, we went down the rabbit hole. But his 8-minute speech yesterday was pretty fucking good. And yeah, that was campaign level speech. He's not redeemed himself fully in my eyes, but I'm very pleased with how he has handled this.
He has
so far.
no chance. He has no fucking chance.
I refuse to be tricked by the Antichrist tricks. Okay,
But
Yeah.
God, he's handsome.
He is. He's a studly man. There's no question about it.
He has no chance.
I'm convinced he's going to be the next Lucius Malfoy in the new Harry Potter series.
Remember when Lucius Malfoy tried to Avada Kedavra Harry Potter?
Bro, right in fucking Hogwarts, like within stone's throw of Dumbledore's office. The ass beating that would ensue after that? You kidding me?
Wow, we have a
Newsom-
super chat from Darude Boy Gaming. Trump deploys National Guard on 7th of June. Waymos get burned on 8th June. Hutch, quote, protesters, stop escalating.
This is what I'm
Oh
talking
my
about.
God. We're not going to trigger a
This is literally what I'm fucking talking about. These are not mutually exclusive things, you fucking idiot. You can say both of those things are bad, okay? And you're not saying that both of them are equally bad. But I think Newsom, if he wants to be president, he should jockey for VP. That's what he should do.
Who like right now, I saw a poll that he's the front runner now. Buttigieg just lapped AOC. She's now in 3rd place. Buttigieg is 2nd. And obviously, just given the moment, Newsom is in 1st place.
Wait, what? According to what poll?
CNN, Harry Enton was discussing it.
Newsom's in 1st place
That's
right
not
now?
surprising.
No. Just because of what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, after Hillary got wall-to-wall coverage when she testified during the Benghazi hearing, she literally gained like 45 points in the polls against Bernie. It was something completely ridiculous, and it reverted substantially when Iowa actually started to approach. But it was a really crazy swing, basically just because she was in the news for like a few days, I guess. And she looked good during the hearing, obviously, because the Benghazi hearings were so absurd.
Cory
but,
Booker more recently.
yeah,
Cory
that does-
Booker
that does-
more recently did the filibuster thing, and
And everybody fucking forgot about it. Like this
Yeah,
this
for like a
sucks.
week, he went up
This
to second place.
timeline sucks. Like you know how pissed he must be. The amount of effort and like physical pain he went through to go through that shit to make history in that moment, and knock off the previous record from a fucking white old ass racist. and everybody forgot about it.
What are you supposed to do every day? Like, oh my
It's
God,
24-hour news cycle,
Cory
you
Booker,
know?
can you believe 25 hours? So crazy. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can fucking talk about it. It's cool, but it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he expected it to just be a flash in the. I mean, every news story is just a flash in the pan base. I mean, look, in 6 months, nobody's going to be talking about what we're talking about right
It's
now.
not even gonna mean.
Nobody's
going to
gonna be
make it
talking
6
about it. It's
months.
not
Think
gonna-
about like all the shit we
Yeah,
don't talk
it's
about with Trump
like-
anymore.
Like
Like
what?
the Elon thing. Like somebody brought it up earlier. You know,
We haven't talked about it yet.
I thought we did talk about it on our
No.
last.
No, because it happened like on Thursday or Friday.
The real one happened on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I guess quick recap. There was a brief breakup, brief but intense MAGA civil war. Elon called for Trump's impeachment, said that he was implicated in the Epstein files, which is why the Trump administration did not release them. Threatened to dismantle the Dragon, then walked that back.
Yep. Look, and I just want it to be known, okay, guys, I made a correct prediction, okay? Donald Trump is definitely way more powerful than Elon Musk, okay? Anybody who thought that Elon had more power, more cards in this situation than Trump was crazy. As soon as Trump said he was going to revoke all of those government contracts for Elon Musk's companies, guess who shut the fuck up?
Folded.
It was
He
Elon
didn't even just
bitch-ass
shut up.
Musk.
He went back and tried to. The internet is forever. It's really fucking dumb.
I feel like he's not going to give an interview for a really long time because there's like, what the fuck is he going to say? Like, okay, were you telling the truth about the Epstein thing? If so, that's crazy. You're still associating with him. Did you lie? If so, that's crazy that you fucking slandered somebody that baselessly. It's like there's like no good options. Like either way, he either looks like a complete fucking creep or like a petulant child, which we already know he was, but still. I mean, he's not. I don't expect to see him on any podcasts coming up or any fucking interviews. Nothing.
Well, Elon, we have to, it has to be said, Elon is stupid, right? Like people will say, oh my goodness, like he built all these companies. How could he be an idiot? Guys, just because you built a fucking car company known as Tesla doesn't mean that you can run a farm. It doesn't mean that you can run, a fucking convenience store. And it certainly doesn't mean that you know shit about the government, media, or politics generally, okay? Elon is an idiot when it comes to those things. He's proven it over and over and over again. So for people who are like, how could he do that? This is such an insane thing to do. Now he looks like such a buffoon. He is a buffoon. He stepped into a realm that he knows nothing about because he has the hubris of the average billionaire who thinks that they know more than the shit that made them billions. They don't. They only know about the shit that made them billions. And it's a narrow topic.
He's just so messy. Like the timeline of events in the last 2 months is really something. Like first he shows up in the White House, very clearly high out of his mind, by the way. I don't think that's a stretch. Like that dude was fucking high with a black eye. And then a journalist asked him how he got it. He said, oh, I told my 5-year-old son to punch me in the face.
It makes no sense.
First of all, who the fuck is doing that? That sounds like awful parenting, by the way. And then a week later, he's saying that Trump is on the Epstein list. And then 3 days later, he's like, I regret. He's just a mess right now.
He goes, I regret some of the tweets.
You know who doesn't get high and crash out? Waymos. They just do what they're told.
You fucking stop it. Although
Leave
I will
the
say,
Waymos alone.
somebody sent this. They were like, since Hutch said that he wanted Gavin Newsom to be VP, who would be the head of the ticket? Who would be the top of the ticket?
I want Pete to be the guy. I don't know if he's going to be the guy, but I'm rooting for Pete.
They sent me this. Oh, Hutch, we love you. We're fucking with you. That was
not my Waymos. I don't give a fuck.
Listen.
Wait, Hutch. Hutch just said he didn't give a fuck about the Waymos. I want that on the record.
Listen, I'm running out
about
of Waymo
the imagery. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I care about.
Yeah, the Musk Trump thing though, I don't know. He seems to be like saying that there won't be a reconciliation, but now he's kind of playing footsie with it. Do you think they reconcile?
Oh, he's already groveling. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but what I mean is, will Trump take him back?
It's kind of tough to rehire him, but maybe they'll go to events together.
Didn't Marco Rubio say he has a small dick on like live TV? Like,
wait, when?
I think Trump. I think he's probably gonna put some distance there. Like number one, he actually hates drugs, so there's that. And like the image of, I'm sure he saw the footage of Elon in the Oval Office with a fucking black eye high out of his mind, and I am positive that pissed him off. And so
I think Trump will still be willing to like maintain a minimum relationship just to get his money. I mean, they've already reconciled once, to be clear, right? I mean, they already had this like spat where Trump said, "Oh, Elon Musk came to me on his
Like a
knees
dog."
begging,"
he said he was
when I
on the
talked about-
Epstein files.
Yeah,
though. I mean,
I
that's like a whole like.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but these guys, Trump is he's a classic authoritarian. He respects power, and although Elon is not certainly not nearly as powerful as Trump in the position of being president, Elon is still a significant figure, and I think that there's reason to think that it's like, yeah, I mean, if I can maintain at least a minimum relationship, and if you do enough groveling, I think Trump will. Not that he'll invite you into the inner circle, but at the very least, he won't cancel all your government contracts, and maybe you'll get invited to the next RNC in 2028 or something like that. You'll have some like inside scoop, I guess. Right?
David Hogg is out as vice chair of the DNC.
Oh, we have to talk about the DNC. I am not liking what I'm seeing. I think that it is so blackpilling, doom-pilling to see the amount of pushback against David Hogg for saying essentially, hey, we should try to get like less old people involved. That to me is a bad sign. The whole leak from Ken Martin, I did not like that at all. I didn't like that sentiment. I'm highly concerned with what's going on in the DNC. I think that their release of like in-house influencers, that is not the right approach. They shouldn't do that. But yeah, so I'm highly concerned.
Did you make an endorsement for NYC mayor? You promised you would.
Going to.
You're going to. You're going to the day after the fucking election.
Hold on. Pisco, I've got to push back on this.
Yes.
You promised us over the weekend you would release an endorsement. So I expect you
It's just
right now to
it's,
endorse.
It's Mamdani.
Who's your candidate?
Okay.
There's a new poll that has Mamdani up.
Can you put me on the big screen?
Put him on the big
Wait,
screen.
did you guys see
Deserves
this? There's a new poll with Mamdani leading Cuomo by like 4 points.
My fellow Americans, my fellow New York Cityites. Wait, I have to restart that. That's stupid. I have to restart it. Okay,
Wait a minute.
Fucking Pisco. Jesus Christ.
Hang on. Let's do this the right way. Hang on. Hold on. All right. So we're gonna.
Can you play music? Can you play?
I can't. No, like that, I'm not that. You could just do that in the background. I'm not that particularly tech savvy. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have esteemed lawyer and Rob Noor frenemy making his official endorsement of the NYC mayor. This could have the potential to shape the outcome of the election. So, Pisco, you're live on the air, buddy, and the floor is yours, man. The floor is yours.
My fellow New Yorkers, we are at a crisis. There is a housing shortage in New York City. We are being beset by intrusions from the Trump administration. And at this time, at this critical hour in our democracy, I will be endorsing Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor for this June's primary. Andrew Cuomo does not have what it takes to stand up to the administration. He's mired in scandal. He's weak against Trump. He has failed before, and he'll fail again. And for that reason, I'm asking all members of the Peace Corps not to rank Andrew Cuomo on their ballot this June. Thank you.
I'll be honest with you. I was
I have a quick
surprised
follow-up.
based on conversations that I had with Pisco privately. He always struck me as more of a Mayor Adams guy.
Or Cuomo.
Oh, yeah. And don't vote for Mayor Adams at all in the independent. And if Andrew Cuomo wins the primary, we can have a discussion about like what comes next. But definitely don't vote for a Republican and don't vote for Mayor Adams in the general.
Well, hold on, Pisco. I've got the natural follow-up. My only follow-up is, what about your full rank? Okay, like you got Mamdani first, Cuomo's not ranked at all. Who are you putting second?
So
Who
I
are you
have
putting
Brad
third?
Lander for second. And I would probably, I right now I haven't figured out beyond that, but those two are my tops.
So going back to the
enough.
going back to the
Well, there
hog
you go,
thing.
people.
Hutch doesn't give a fuck about your endorsement. God damn it.
Going back to the hog thing. So are you saying are you saying that the DNC should allow for someone like Hogg to have that little side project? Or are you saying that the DNC should adopt a new strategy of like taking his lead and trying to replace older candidates or incumbents?
I think that the DNC needs to approach and have radical change in their structure. And so I think that it's good to promote primary challenges for people who are old. And so, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with one vice chair saying it, and I'm okay with like having some disunity, some discord. I think it's good to like not just do an old boys club situation. And so, in general, I think like this is a kind of nothing position. So why are we like freaking out about it? It looks bad optically. And so even if you're going to say the DNC should not take a stake in like some of these races, which, you know, query whether that's a good idea. Like, look at what the Republicans are doing. I just
Does the
don't think that
RNC support primary challenges?
I'm not sure that they explicitly do, but they certainly like they are just a wing of the Trump coalition. Like the RNC is just beholden to Trump. And if we just have one kid who's saying like, hey, maybe we should encourage primary challenges, you know what? It is a fucking crisis moment. We had 3 reps die so far like this year, right? Or in this term. Am I incorrect about that?
This year.
So what
This
the fuck
year.
is going on? We are in a clear and present danger of boomerism taking over our entire party. And that's another reason why, by the way, I'm endorsing Zoran over Andrew Cuomo is Cuomo's too old. Yeah, I know he's in his like 60s or whatever, but let's get out with the old, in with the
He's
new.
practically a teenager by Democratic
I know,
standards.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
In with the new. I don't want to have to like see these people.
And in case Matt
for
Gates
my-
is watching, he's not literally a teenager. So
Yeah,
fuck
true.
off.
So
yeah.
don't get any ideas there.
Yeah.
Like, is that so bad? Is that so wrong that we have someone to like mix things up a little bit and deal with the clear and present emergency in the party, which is boomerism?
I don't think so. I don't necessarily oppose what David Hogg's trying to do, but I think I get the concern for DNC people that maybe they don't want that sort of thing associated with that apparatus because their policy is to support incumbents. And there's you can say that that's not always the best move if you don't like this or that candidate, but I understand the logic of it. It's definitely the safer bet if you're trying to maintain or secure majorities.
Apex Eater seems to be on Hutch's side in the sense he says, super chat, David Hogg is a liability for rural districts. Who wants to pursue gun legislation during the ascendancy of fascism? Makes no sense.
But he's not. It's not a policy discussion. You guys are like attributing policy level decisions to David Hogg. That's not what it's about.
And then we should have more military. Econo Boy, do you want to jump in on Hogg? Do you want to get your hands on Hogg?
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, of course, I always want to get my hands on Hogg, obviously. But you know, obviously, I mean, look at the flag behind me. But no, like obviously, David Hogg is in a lot of senses like a controversial guy. But I think that Pisco and I mean, we're staking out a more principled position. At least for me, look, I just don't have any issue because essentially the issue at hand here is not what David Hogg is doing in his capacity as vice chair of the DNC. It's what he's doing outside of that capacity, which is at issue here. And essentially the position of the DNC is, and to Hudge's point, I can understand why a party would make this decision. I just happen to disagree with it. That if you're a member within the party apparatus, you can't do anything externally to, I guess, show a preference in a primary. But I mean, that I just don't agree with that. I mean, it seems like people should be able to express their opinions in primaries, both publicly because they're damn sure expressing it privately and trying to maneuver resources privately. So, look, if you're going to have that inconsistency, then I don't have a problem with it being public and transparent like David Hogg is suggesting.
That's just like a very pronounced like tension, I guess. Because if you have an official DNC policy of supporting incumbents and the vice chair is doing this project over here where he's trying to do these primaries, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but that official policy, I think Pisco and I would.
Yeah, we think it's stupid.
disagree
If
with
you
as
have a
well.
policy in favor of incumbents, then what is principally wrong with having a policy against incumbents or at least questioning incumbents? If like it's not a categorical thing, it's just that the DNC has chosen to back incumbents, and sometimes I think that incumbents should be challenged. And the proof of that is in the pudding. Our number one star right now in the House Representative Party in the House Representatives among the caucus is AOC. And she was a challenge to an old fucking guy. And so, like, let's be real here. We need to cultivate talent, and the talented aren't necessarily the incumbent.
Did you see? You said AOC said challenge old fucking guy, which made me think of
Brain
fucking
blast.
Chuck Schumer, and then it made me think of the Daily Show and Jon Stewart's interview of Stephen A. Smith. Did any of you watch that?
No, I don't want to have fucking brain cancer.
Well,
I saw some
It's
headlines.
pretty
but I didn't
good.
see
You know, they have a bit of a bromance there, but John like gently coaxes him out of it. I gotta say, because I saw Stephen A. Smith, he's been bitching about Newsom's play. Everything that comes out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth is critical of the Democratic Party.
He's just bitching. He's just a fucking
nonstop.
loser.
He interviewed Riley
cuck.
Gaines like on a show today or yesterday or
He
whattever.
interviewed
and-
Candace Owens like a month ago.
Yeah, and no pushback whatsoever. I don't know if he gave any pushback to the Candace Owens thing. I mean, this is just it's such weak shit. And by the way, did you see that? And I don't talk culture war stuff, but I was shocked at the chutzpah of Riley Gaines to do this. But she gets called out by Simone Biles. Simone Biles apologizes, and then Riley Gaines goes on Fox News and like fucking insults her. She's like, this apology where this groveling apology where she's bending the knee to, blah, blah, like just totally shit talking a vastly superior athlete, by the way. So people are pointing this out. Like, is there really any point in engaging in
This
good faith?
motherfucker Riley Gaines needs to get a fucking job. Can I just be honest? Like, you can't just.
She's doing just fine for
you
herself
ca-
now.
You can't come fifth in a race one time and then we're going to you for like tariff advice. I'm pretty sure I saw her on a news show where they were like asking her about international trade issues. It's fucking pathetic.
No, it is because I was going to make the same point, not nearly as funny as Pisco just did, because that is right. Riley is one of these complete, and I'll call her a grifter, right? Because she's one of these people who's like, in my opinion, and arguably it has to do with like democratic politics. So I'm going to make my whole entire political ethos align with the right. Dude, it'd be one thing if you said, oh, I just disagree with the Democrats on this one issue, but obviously not my entire set of principles is tied to the Republican Party. But to Pisco's point, it's like, you come fifth in a race to a trans woman one time, and all of a sudden it's like now I'm pro-tariff. Doesn't make any fucking sense, Riley.
She's on Trump's Council of Economic Advisors. She's about to replace Hassett. Like this is but again, the thing.
By the way, Simone Biles' tweet was based as fuck. I literally could not believe. And by the way, Simone Biles is from Houston, H-Town till I drown. I could not believe how base she was. It came completely out of nowhere too. I don't know Simone to make statements like this. Maybe she does it regularly, but it was super.
She's like, you look like a man. I think she was like, you look like a dude. And I have to
She's
say,
like, I can't hear you over the
Congress.
jangling of my 11, Olympic gold medals. I love it, but I mean, the thing that I took note of, because like you see it, the shit in your feed, and especially if you don't do culture war stuff, you just keep scrolling. But I saw this clip earlier today, where Riley Gaines like was so offended by what this is just, it's a betrayal, and she was such an icon to me and an inspiration.
I was such a big supporter.
And then Biles apologizes to her publicly, and she fucking gives her the finger and is shit talking her on Fox News. And people are pointing this out.
Scum.
People are pointing out like you should just never apologize to right wingers.
Isn't she
at all.
married to an illegal
Apologies.
immigrant? Oh, wait. Can we pour one out? All right, guys. I cannot endorse this. So the guy from what's his name? The fashion guy. He has a very famous Twitter account.
Derek.
It's called Die Where Work. Die something. Is it Derek? Okay, yeah, I think it's Derek.
I thought it was Derek. I don't know.
First of all, the reason why this relates is because I think Riley Gaines is married to someone who like overstayed their visa or something like it's nuts. Something's going on with that. Someone needs to look into it. We need to just stop all the Riley Gaines content until someone finds out whether she's married to an illegal immigrant. But anyway, I cannot support.
Would President Pisco?
I would open an immediate investigation.
Would you?
Listen. So this is what happened, and this is it's kind of funny. I don't know if it's funny. It's dark and twisted or whatever, right? So the guy Derek comes out, and he's like is always being very sassy about what people are wearing, all that shit. And he pretty much has a long post about how immigrants are great, and oh, by the way, I'm an illegal immigrant from Vietnam. Guys, you don't have to say that, because the minute they said that, someone like added DHS, added JD Vance, and JD Vance and the DHS official government accounts are like memeing and being like, yes, we're going to deport you. Like DHS put that Spy Kids meme of like the infinite microscope like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Infinite little thing. And they're going to try to deport this guy who's like a columnist and is like a very beloved Twitter account. So just be careful with what you're tweeting, all right? Don't be too based.
It's okay. The next Democratic president should just kick Jordan Peterson out of the fucking country and just start doing like for like. Hey,
Speaking of that guy, he said that he wanted protests to be peaceful, and it pissed a lot of people off. I'm just saying.
Oh, really? Did it
he
piss
was
off
looking after
Taylor
the
Lawrence?
Wamos. He was
She posted about it. Other people posted about it.
No.
I saw. Never mind. I don't even want to get into that. Never
Wait,
mind.
what?
I was
Josiah,
gonna-
wait, what?
Taylor Lorenz, like I try to be very fastidious about don't get into culture war stuff. Just don't get into culture war stuff. And then I see there's just some really annoying people on social media, and I refuse to be brain rotted by them. I refuse. Some breaking news here. Israel is poised to launch operation on Iran.
Oh,
Sources say.
boy. Why
US
is Trump doing this?
U.S. officials have been told Israel is fully ready to launch an operation into Iran. Multiple sources told CBS the U.S. anticipates Iran could retaliate on certain American sites in neighboring Iraq. This is part of the reason the U.S. advised some Americans to leave the region earlier Wednesday, with the State Department ordering non-emergency government officials to exit Iraq due to, quote, heightened regional tensions.
Can't blame Biden for this one.
They will.
Never would have happened on my watch. Never would have
This
happened.
war
This is
would never have
Biden's
happened if it
Middle East.
weren't for Trump. I mean, if Harris were elected, this would all have been done. It would have been resolved. We would have had peace right now in Ukraine. We would have had peace right now in the Middle
Palestinian
East,
state.
the Palestinian state. So this is the standard that we've been learning to apply, and so that's the standard that we're going to apply now.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of random Twitter moments, did you
Yeah.
guys see the Mike from PA abundance thing?
yeah. Again, talk about annoying fucking people that I just like have to don't just keep scrolling. Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, it was incredible.
Well, he deleted his tweet, so nobody was ever going to notice.
Wait, no, did he ask Derek Thompson whether or not he read Abundance?
Yeah. And,
Oh
and,
my
and Thompson was
God.
like, not recently.
Cringe, cringe, absolutely cringe. That guy's like addicted to not getting a giant L. Or addicted to getting giant L's. Someone just told me for you to stop pearl clenching over protest, Hutch. They paid me to say that.
I literally fucking just said that. I swear to God. I swear to God.
Hutch, I think it's because people find like where you grab the microphone and scream wildly entertaining. I know I do. Like there's like an ASMR
is
quality.
this fake news? Fake news. Die Workwear has a green card. Stop lying about his status. Oops, my bad. He's not only immigrant. My apologies.
Yeah, stop lying, Pisco.
That's what I
Jesus
thought.
Christ.
That's what he thought he said. I read it. He's like, I'm here without status, or at least I was for a while.
Yeah.
Another lie from lying Pisco.
A couple of other Twitter things. So Pisco, just some rapid fire Q&A for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are these the riots that have occurred, as rare as they are? Are they insurrections? And are you and Rob Noor still going back and forth?
So I think a couple of the attacks on ICE officers are more likely than not insurrections. The reason I say that is because we have a historical legal definition of insurrection, and that is that there's an assemblage, at least two people, so it's a public assemblage. You only need two people. You need to have a purpose to resist the enforcement of a federal law, and there I think it's more likely than not that they're trying to intimidate for the purposes of getting them to stop enforcement of immigration law. There needs to be a public purpose, so it's not just merely like your own personal people that you're protecting. It's a greater societal interest, and I think that that's met here. And using force or intimidation, and so I think the throwing of rocks at ICE agents, that's probably that's definitely force, and so it meets the minimum threshold for insurrection, probably more likely than not. I mean, again, all of this could change depending on their individual mens rea, but again, just because you meet a definitional threshold doesn't mean we ought to treat these things the exact same way vis-a-vis like other insurrections.
Sure.
I've called other things insurrections that are small scale, like some BLM incidents, some pro-Palestinian riots, I've called an insurrection. And so there's nothing inconsistent whatsoever with my application. What is horrible is to make up your own definition like Rob Noor has done. His definition is a quote unquote serious attempt to overthrow the government. And that definition is cited like literally no no dictionary definition he can point to that says that, no legal case that says that, no historical usage that says that. And so there's literally, he's just making up a definition, and that definition would exclude things like the whiskey insurrection, the John Brown insurrection on Harper's Ferry, the insurrection related to Shays Rebellion. It would exclude the Civil War. It would exclude the American Revolution. So it's an absolutely bonkers definition that he's trying to
the attack on Fort Sumter.
Yeah, the attack on Fort Sumter itself.
Yeah.
And then put even separate than that, it's not even the one that Rob used before January 6th. January 6th, before that, he was calling BLM riots insurrections. He was calling university protests where they're like throwing books at someone insurrections at 2 different campuses. I have them all on record, him saying that. And so before Jan 6, he had a different definition, which wasn't serious attempt to overthrow the government. And then after it, now he's supporting Trump, saying this is an insurrection, this rebellion. And so the inconsistent one here is Rob Noor. He's the one who's not applying this very, very narrow definition that he gets from nowhere to before Jan 6 or after Jan 6 events, because he's a bad faith piece of shit, hack, stupid too.
I will also say I put this out there, and Rob's usually good about responding. This one he did not respond to. I put out this because I think that this just Socratically would be very informative. He is seen as the most formidable crusader on the right in terms of criticizing Democratic corruption, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. And I would say Pisco, if I had to just, reach out and put hands on somebody who is that counterweight on the left, calling out the Trump administration's corruption consistently, it would be you in this space. And so I proposed that there be some sort of moderated debate between you guys. And I say moderated because when it's not moderated, it's still very entertaining. But it always ends up at Kevin Kleinsmith and FISA, and then you circle the drain there until one of you falls asleep. But it'd be interesting to see if, I know you would do this. I tried to pitch it as neutrally as possible, where you would be forced, and you wouldn't have to be forced because
he's just a little bitch.
Yeah.
He's a bitch who has a double standard, and he doesn't want to be held to it. And so whenever it comes to Trump stuff, he can't defend it on the merits, and so he has to go to, but what about Kevin Kleinsmith? What about Kevin Kleinsmith? What about your definition?
Do you think he would ever agree, though, where, again, I don't think you'd have to be forced to, but where you are forced, yes, to answer all his questions about Biden and Hillary and blah, 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 but he is also in the same debate forced to answer your questions about the Qatari jet
I'm not sure if he'll.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he'll agree to that. I certainly will.
Yeah, but what do you? Do either of you guys? Because you have also, both of you have had conversation. I think actually, Econoboy might have had the longest conversation with Rob Noor. It was 5 hours. I think it might
debate record length time. That's right.
Do you think Rob would do that? Do you think Rob would agree to a moderated debate where he has to actually address allegations of Trump corruption, the meme coin, and all that other shit?
I don't know. I don't know why he would. I guess because it would contradict his powerfully stated position of definitively
I don't know these
not
motherfuckers
being willing
shit.
to do that.
I don't know you shit. I don't know. And the funny thing is when you deploy that against him, as I did with the insurrection thing, I was like, I don't know the people who denied the insurrection for so long of January 6th, any kind of it's such a fucking pussy move because he's a pussy.
And Econoboy, or excuse me, and Hutch, I got to say, I listened to a debate you had. It was probably a week ago, and the debate might have been a couple of weeks ago, and I'm blank on who it is, but maybe if I give you enough context clues, you can tell me. It was really frustrating. It was a guy who apparently used to work in Hollywood, and he used to write for he was a writer or something like that, and he has since become an anti-Democrat. It was largely a debate about Gaza and Gaza policy, and that he said that the Democrats would not be any better. This was in the past 2 or 3
was
weeks.
this Disinfo Tracker? Was it that guy?
Cinema-Marxism, maybe.
Oh.
That's it. That guy right there. That guy.
Oh, I don't know if we talked too much about Gaza, but
it was just who would be better on that situation, and I'm pretty sure it was Marxism. That was really frustrating. That was a frustrating conversation.
That wasn't the most frustrating part of the conversation for me. The most frustrating part was that he favors a clean break, he wants what he calls a clean break. He wants Bernie and AOC to start a new party.
Start a third party. Yeah. And that's
what
it was. And you said that would just definitionally empower Republicans to make things so much worse. And
his position is one that I run into a lot when I'm sort of sparring with the left a little bit, is that he was taking the position that things are already maximally bad right now, and so there's no better time than right now to do a clean break. And I tried to make the point where it's okay, well, if you give Republicans the kind of majorities where they could pass constitutional amendments, you can't imagine things getting 1,000 times worse. and he just wouldn't really engage with that. I feel like, honestly, but
some quick super chats here, guys. Please, insurrection is just whatever Tim Pool says it is. He says we're going to have another civil war or something. And then Phil P says, why do the Vanguard boys have such a hard-on for Hutch? They've been roasting him constantly. We will have Zach and Gavin on here, Live and Learn in the next, I would say the next like 2 or 3 weeks. They've agreed to do it. We just need to like hammer out a time.
No, let me say something that like, and I was talking to my chat about it yesterday. Like, I fully acknowledge that if I'm not careful, I could fucking Anna Kasparian myself, and I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen because I think I'm better.
We won't let you. We won't let you.
What happens is like it's this cycle of escalation. So like I'll say something, and then somebody in that sphere, in that space, will respond, and then I'll respond, and then it escalates, and then I'll look back on the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, geez, I've spent 95% of my time like arguing with the left, and that was kind of the moment I had on stream a few days ago where I was like really like. After watching that Trump speech, where I was like, wait a second, I feel like I'm missing the forest for the trees right now. So I will fully acknowledge that, like, I do that to myself. Like, I choose the things that I engage in, and I have spent way too much time like sparring with these people. But it's honestly, it's just because I look at my feed and a bunch of people are angry, and then I fucking get in fight mode, and then I do a thing, and then they do a thing, and then
So it's difficult for me because obviously, Hutch is a friend. I've got great affection for him. I also have affection for the Vanguard boys. I've just for about a year and a half, like I don't have a lot of time these days to watch other people's content. But when I had more time, like I would have them on in the background when they were live streaming. They're not alone. Like I pop into Hutch's stream and Peace goes in with a Kana boy when he streams every other month. I try to jump in as much as possible. So it's tough. Now I think that Zach and Gavin, I appreciate the energy and just the overall approach of Democrats should be more ruthless. I agree with that proposition. I think they are often wrong about the procedural reality. Like Kyle was. Kyle's a friend. And I think that Kyle was wrong about just, override the Senate parliamentarian. I think Hutch made a really good point there, which you could do that. And I don't think Hutch denies that, but that they still wouldn't have had the votes to make it happen. So as long as you accept,
Hutch was right there. Hutch was right there.
Or the Merrick Garland example investigating Joe Manchin. Like I think that. So I think that he's often right on the procedural element. I agree. Sometimes I don't think he's sympathetic enough to just the how much Democrats exude impotence at critical points, which is something everybody's saying at this point. Everybody, it's reflected in the polls. We are seen as a weak party. So there is that perception is the fault of the leadership. And so they have to simultaneously deal with the procedural reality and exude strength. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. But I'm hoping.
Did you reach out to him yet? Because I would like.
I did about a week ago. They took a week off and they said, yeah, when we get back, we'll get together and hammer out a week to pop on. But yeah, they're always game to have conversations. And and one of the things too, and it's one of the things I like about really all three of you that they also share is they will come out the gate swinging. Even a Kana boy who is like the most zen out of all of us. A Kana boy, I saw him. I can't remember if it was like a WIC thing or an impromptu debate we had with somebody. But a Kana boy was just like in his very measured tone, just kept telling people to shut the fuck up. I'm talking. And it was the funniest thing. So like they come out swinging. They've been blasting Ro Khanna, and Ro Khanna agreed to come on the Vanguard. I think he's been on there before.
Wait, really? Wow.
Oh yeah, and I get it. Ro Khanna, I struggle with Ro Khanna.
I struggle with him too.
Yeah, I like him, but like the one where he missed that fucking Elon subpoena vote really, really fucked with me. And he kept saying, well, they didn't announce it in advance, which I believe, because I would have given the game away and allowed Republicans to show up in greater numbers. But I don't care who the fuck you're meeting with. When a Senate page or a House page runs in and says, Congressman Khanna, we have this moment where we've got the numbers to subpoena Elon Musk. If you're holding a fucking baby, you drop the baby and run your ass into the oversight room and do your fucking job. There is literally nothing in that moment more important. And he was in a meeting, and I guess just kept the meeting. Well, who were you meeting that was worth that moment? So I totally disagree with him on that. Yeah, I like how they come out the gate swinging. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with you guys, and I'm hoping it's productive.
It'll be very productive.
I often find that the conversations are way more tame when they happen in voice chat. when you're sparring on Twitter, it's one thing, but
Gavin will be
times.
chill. Zach's the one who, because like I've been on their show multiple times, and we're I consider you all friends. I don't know if I consider Zach and Gavin friends because we just don't interact that way, but we are very, very friendly towards one another. But when I have conversations with Zach and Gavin, Gavin's by far the more diplomatic one, and Zach, he's feisty, and it's not like I don't take it personally, but like he's passionate about this shit, and so like when I disagreed, for example, on the efficacy of having Merrick Garland investigate Joe Manchin, Zach's like, bro, what the fuck? Why do you want them to be put? Like he's very passionate about it, so he'll be spicy. Gavin will probably be relatively chill, but
that's fine. I just there are practical considerations. I think that sometimes when you interrogate certain like propositions, they just crumble, and I think some people don't really do those practical considerations. But yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. Pisco, you got anything? Any heated debates down the pipe that you can talk about?
So tomorrow. Oh wait. So I'm gonna be on with Crystal and Kyle tomorrow. I don't think it's live. I think it's recorded. So that's happening. I'm gonna be talking again to Ryan Mullally.
Wait,
a little
pause
update.
for just a second. Crystal and Kyle, you mentioned that on your stream. Can you tell us what you're gonna be talking about?
I was told everything.
Okay.
I literally asked and I was told everything. So yeah, nothing specific. I think it's going to be more of like going through all the corruption stuff, all the recent stuff with the military shit. A lot of updates on my channel. So I am taking a step back from private practice.
Wait, you said Mullally. We'll go with Mullally first, and then give your channel.
Okay. So Ryan Mullally, we're gonna have a conversation. I think about like, he thinks that like Biden supported race quotas, even though they never did, and that was one of his bases for like not voting or preferring Trump over Biden. Because I pushed him and I'm like, if you had to pick, you would have picked Trump over Kamala or Biden, right? And he said yes. And one of the bases was, because the Biden administration supported race quotas, and I verifiably showed the part of the Solicitor General's brief on behalf of Biden, which said in no uncertain terms that what Harvard or what the school was doing was not a racial quota, acknowledging that racial quotas are unconstitutional and were unconstitutional under then existing precedent of the Supreme Court. And all that they were trying to do was to argue that the existing case of Grutter, which established that not quotas, but that you could consider affirmative action for purposes of diversity, that was allowed, but they weren't supporting race quotas. They just were saying what was there was not a race quota, and so I think we're gonna have a discussion about that. But it's completely cooked that you would even take that as
really fucking frustrating. I don't know. He and I've been playing tag back and forth. Like he's got a family and kids, and he practices, and like I have nothing scheduled. My life is by the seat of its pants, and so when I get like a fucking free hour, I'm like, okay, are you wanting to talk now? And we keep missing each other. But like, the last conversation you had with Ryan really triggered me because he just knows. He fucking knows. He knows that Trump is worse on the issues he claims to care about. And that was his plausible deniability months ago. Like, well, Trump was disqualified because of, trying to overturn the election, blah, blah, blah. But he would have been my preferred candidate. And I don't know if he's any, I think he's worse in some ways, and Democrats are worse in different ways on, free speech, for example. And then the fucking organization that he keeps saying he pins his entire fucking worldview on, and he wants to actually practice, he wants to like try cases for them, fired.
Yep.
They came out and said that Trump, what he's doing to free speech is unprecedented in scope, scale, and severity, meaning I win, you lose. Trump is objectively fucking worse. Now own it. Fucking own it. If you're a man of principle, you can still bitch about Democrats all you want, but just be honest and consistent. Say, oh, yeah, guys, I was wrong about that. In light of additional evidence and all this other shit, Terry Moran and like all this other stuff, yeah, Donald Trump is obviously more censorious and worse on first, and he wouldn't, and you kept pushing him. Yeah. And then all he did was like, well, the Biden DEI stuff. And now you're having a second debate specifically about that?
So it's about how Biden did not support race quotas because he didn't support race quotas because Grutter did not make it that it's okay to have race quotas. Race quotas have been unconstitutional for a while, and Biden wasn't arguing in favor of race quotas. And the district court found that there were no race quotas, and there was evidence that showed that this was not a race quota. And so, so that's, but it's not even that, right? It's that Biden wanted race quotas, and that he was arguing in favor of race quotas when the brief literally says the opposite. And so yeah, it's just another example of what I think is bad faith centrism. But yeah, that's going to happen. I have to schedule that. We had the discussion with Viva Frey. I have other things in the works as well. Other people I'm reaching out to and collabing. I'm taking a step from private practice. Those of you who know the channel know that. So yeah, a lot of reasons for that I talked about on my stream. You were
disbarred, right?
No, I was not disbarred. It's a decision I've been mulling over for a while, to be honest. Since the election, a lot, but also work-life balance stuff, burning the candle on both ends. I haven't been sleeping that much. Juggling all my different responsibilities, and so yeah. But in addition, also I want to be a voice against the Trump administration. I want to dedicate my time to that. So appreciate all the support that I've been getting since I made that announcement. And yeah, thank you, boys. I'll have more time to now the newsletter's coming back, and more content coming.
Good,
we did get a super chat that was $10. So I don't know.
Where was it? Where was it? I see it. I see it. There you go, right here. Ben Riley.
Yeah.
Take it away, Hutch. This is right up your alley.
No, it says, why do Republicans have so much more political capital than Dems to push stronger legislation even without Obama 2008 numbers? They're treating things like a mandate. Why don't Dems do this? So first of all, I don't think this is true. I don't know what are they talking about, guys?
Well, I think
big, beautiful bill. This is not are they saying
what Ben is? I think Ben is maybe talking about the framing of things, right? Where they're like, oh, we have this big mandate to do all this and that, but the margins are actually relatively slim, right? And they haven't really done anything very significant in terms of legislation yet. I mean, even the big, beautiful bill, think about it, right? The big, beautiful bill in terms of directionally is just an extension of what was already done in 2017. So there's no actual change to the American people except for the benefits cuts. The only big thing that they're changing in this bill is that a bunch of different groups of people are getting their benefits cut, right? Which isn't exactly positively transformational, right? So
what about you, Akana boy? Anything? And Hutch, do you guys have anything as far as debates coming up, content? Life changes.
I'm just working on articles. I'm still not a full-time content creator, unlike Pisco here. Okay, I'm the only one who's actually got a goddamn job, unlike the other three of you. No, just working on articles and stuff. I'm working on. I'm probably gonna write an article about my journey to socialism and how I fully converted, I guess, which I thought that would be pretty interesting. That'll be a long one though.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, really? For sure. And that'll be a really long article though, because there was a lot of steps along the way.
So you're not a lib anymore.
Well, hold on. I've got a book here. The Political Theory of Liberal Socialism. Okay, read it by Matt McManus. No, that book actually didn't convert me, but obviously, the liberal, you can be a liberal socialist in the sense that you believe in individual liberty and freedom and stuff like that. But obviously, I don't really care about the label. But I thought that would be pretty an interesting article. There's another book that I'm working my way through called The Public Wealth of Nations, which actually was influential in kind of formulating this kind of thought process. What does this look like empirically? So I thought that'll be pretty interesting. I'm going to also write an article at some point responding directly to Richard Hanania, Mr. I voted for Trump because I thought the Democrats would implement social democracy.
We should invite him on, by the way.
I'd be down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been talking bad about unions, and I just can't have that. So I think I'll maybe write an article in response. So just writing articles and stuff, and then streaming every now and then.
He's been abundance posting too.
Yeah, abundance posting is fine. It's just I think there's a certain group of people who talk about economics who they'll use Econ 101 language and apply it.
I was waiting for you. I'm sorry. I was waiting for you to say there's some people online who talk about economics who fucking shouldn't. That's what I was waiting for you to say.
Yeah. There's a type of person who they're overly broad with Econ 101 type concepts where he'll say cartels, everyone says cartels are bad, if all the power suppliers in the country got together and formed a cartel, everyone would say that's bad. But then the leftists come out and say that unions are good. That makes no sense. And I'm it actually really there's a difference between these two things, right? That's probably meaningful. So I'll try to spell that out in an article. But go to my Substack and subscribe to that. I only make every 5th article. You have to pay to see it, so it's mostly free content, and it's a bunch of leftist bullshit. So if you want to learn about the good leftist economics, go to econoboy.substack.com. Anyway, sorry I took a long time.
No, it's good, man. What about you, Hutch? Anything coming down the pike?
I'm studying Marx right now for whatever reason.
Wait a minute. No,
Jesus,
you were supposed to
what the
be.
fuck?
Were you doing abundance?
Don't do that.
Well, I haven't finished that yet, but now I'm getting sidetracked because now I'm like revisiting sociology 101 stuff like Hegelian. Is it dialectical materialism? Is that was that Hegel? And then
That's right.
exploring
No.
the contradictions of
The
capitalism.
dialectic was Hegel.
Okay, right.
Dialectic
these commies,
materialism.
these
Materialism
commies.
was Marx, right?
That's right.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit on stream. But yeah, Monday through Friday streams. I've been doing longer streams because I'm on stimulants now, so that's fucking dope.
I saw a fucking 9.5-hour stream from you. Like, I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but like, I was like, why is he like? This is unusual for Hutch. He just kept going, Energizer Bunny.
Full attention, Hutch.
And I'm doing a 24-hour stream this month for Death Stranding 2 because Death Stranding 1 is probably my favorite game. So when that game comes out, I'm going to be doing that. So yeah,
24 hours straight.
It'd be
playing
streamed from a
Death Stranding.
Waymo.
Goodness.
Well, he has way more attention
Stop.
to dedicate to these things.
That's right.
Yeah. So speaking of video games, I've heard that there's my buddy said that, is it called Expedition 33? Is that a thing?
oh,
Is that
it's
a thing?
fucking terrific. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another buddy recommended a game I'd never heard of called, I think it's called Tainted Grail. Tainted Grail?
Oh yeah,
The Fall of Avalon?
It's like Skyrim. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's really good too. Yeah.
I was going through my full replay of The Witcher 3 with all the DLCs, so my favorite game, and then in like early April when we were in the process of moving, I got sidetracked. Like, and I was so diligent. Like, with what little free time I had that wasn't with the fiance or streaming, I was like dedicated to this game, and I felt like finally I was able to fucking focus and spend hours, doing something for leisure. And then I don't know what it is. Maybe I have some sort of like attention deficit issue, because ever since we've gotten settled in, I fire up Witcher 3 and I play for 10 minutes and then I shut it off and I scroll.
Yeah.
You guys ever run into that shit?
I mean, Witcher, the TV show, was way better than the video game, to be fair.
Whoa. Witcher 3 is incredible.
Did you just say the Witcher TV show is better than...
You said you couldn't even pay attention to the video game. The TV show's way better, obviously.
So
TV
here's
show's
the thing,
kind of like
'cause I'll be
very
honest with you.
mid.
Because I'll be honest with you, I made it through halfway through the first season of the show,
Boring.
and then that was it. That was
It's
it.
boring.
Wow.
Check out the tech demo that they did using Witcher 4.
Oh yeah, the Unreal, like, or the shit or whatever. Like, yeah, I saw there again. I did not watch that from start to finish. I can't tell you the last thing I watched or played start to finish. I cannot tell you. Like, it's insane. It's
You need like
insane.
a 15-hour narrative. Like, play the Indiana Jones game. It's a pretty short campaign, but it's strong, very
the
strong.
Dial of Destiny or whatever.
Yeah, no, that was the movie. I
That's
think.
the movie. Boomers! You fucking boomers, Isaiah.
It
All right,
came out recently. Fuck you. I'm not. I didn't say it was Raiders or the Ark of the Covenant. Or that's not even one. That isn't
Ark of
Raiders.
the-
Fuck.
the Ark of
wait,
the Covenant.
Wait, what was the last one? The Last Crusade. That's not even the last one. It was Last
No,
Crusade.
no.
And then
Yeah,
it
you
was
mentioned
the.
Covenant, and I have to say the Halo TV show was also better than the Halo video games, just to be clear.
Stop.
Wow.
It's called
Okay.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and it's
Thank
the
you.
story is actually like on par with the movies. It's like a phenomenal story. It's really
The
good.
Great Circle.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
That is.
All
I
right, well,
feel like
thank
that-
you very much,
Yeah, there are
guys.
way more options. Yeah, thank you so much for living and learning longer than usual. But you know what? I miss these guys. I miss you
Always
guys.
miss
It
them.
was fun. Yeah, it was
Get
great.
Zach and Gavin for next week. Let's do it.
Oh, fuck.
right.
That's
He's
the
ready.
gauntlet.
He's ready
Line it
to
up.
throw down.
Oh,
Line it up.
shit.
The rest of us will just pop popcorn and let you three
Yeah, we
we'll
will.
occasionally
Yeah.
moderate. But
Yeah.
So you should figure out how to big screen just the three of them, and we'll be like the little screens on the side.
and then like we'll hold
little,
up like signs like with judges or whatever. Yeah,
I will put in the lip ring for that episode. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
you should
do
put
it.
in every fucking ring. You should like walk
Hutch-
out like you're in a
In your
fucking
Hot
metal
Topic
band.
shirts
Yeah,
and, yeah.
trip pants and a fucking chain wallet and all that shit. Yeah.
Hutch, if you don't live up to that promise of putting in the lip ring next week, I will be pissed off. Just
Oh,
so
I
you know.
will. Promise you. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll hold you to it. Just like I held Pisco to making Pisco wouldn't have endorsed unless I pressured him on behalf of the audience.
I was the one who brought it up, asshole. Why are you trying to take all the credit?
I know, but Econo Boy pressured. Also, those of you guys who have been following the Hassan, like the whole detainment thing, I'm having a victory lap stream after this. You guys can check it out. But thank you very much. I love you all.